Chapter 2338. There would be no next time. This was the first time he had fought a second-level World King powerhouse. Although he didn't know this old man's name, his strength far surpassed that of all the great commanders in the Martial God Battalion. Blade Mountain Sword Tree. A roar came from Lin Ling's mouth. A terrifying sword ruthlessly slashed down. This sword carried with it Lin Ling's hot-bloodedness, fighting spirit, and even a powerful goal. This was the first time it had been revealed in the martial god world. A dazzling, profound character appeared in the skies. His fighting spirit boiled like the sea. The first stroke of the profound character was as dazzling as a blazing sun. Bang! On the ground, the desert exploded. It was like someone had struck the earth with their palm, pushing all the sand in all directions, finally forming a terrifying sandstorm. And this was the might of that sword. Profound sword record. The old man's pupils fiercely shook. He clearly recognized this sword. Not bad, this sword's might is also in the low second grade range. In fact, it is an invincible sword in this martial art grade. A meteor-like light smashed down from the skies, accompanied by an angry roar. The old man's complexion instantly paled. Although they were at the same level, the profound sword record was clearly stronger. On the surface, this martial art was a low second grade martial art. But many people knew that the truth was that its grade was much higher. This was because from the 4th level onwards, many people were unable to cultivate it. It was because of this that others had determined it to be in the 2nd grade range. And in order to cultivate the moves after the 4th level, it was rumored that one had to comprehend the ultimate sword Dao. You have already comprehended the ultimate sword Dao. If I, Nanshan Nan, can die beneath this sword, then I will have no regrets. In the skies, the old man was suppressed by a tremendous aura. His muscles and bones exploded and blood rained down like rain. This was because that sword also carried with it the power of chaos. Lin Ling, everyone has underestimated you. I have a feeling that in the 3 great academies of Azure Province, you will bloom with a monstrous light. Bang! Following the old man's final words, his body completely exploded and turned into dust. Thank you, Senior Nanshan Nan. As for Lin Ling, he was still floating in the air. He breathed heavily, but the fighting spirit in his eyes boiled even more. He had won this battle. His strength was enough to contend with a second-stage World King powerhouse. Nanshan Nan, he's Nanshan Nan, one of the sect masters of the Nanshan 13 sects of the martial god realm that guards the southern region? At this moment, everyone on the ground was in a daze. They never imagined that the old man was such a terrifying existence. This was because this person was a true titan. Even though he couldn't compare to the old monsters, he was still a godlike existence in the myriad worlds. After all, this person had appeared in the southern world before, and in order to avenge his disciple, he had massacred the 36 worlds. Such a powerful person would have countless disciples. In fact, some of the guides would be proud to be able to join the South Mountain sect. And now, one of the leaders of the South Mountain sect had been defeated by a rising star. Furthermore, this person was the guide that they had always been jealous of. Bang bang bang. Ma Nan and the others all sat on the ground, their faces pale. They knew what kind of existence they had provoked. Bang. At the same time, Lin Ling floated down. Lord Lin Ling, spare my life. Spare my life. Ma Nan and the others stared at the blue-robed youth and began to kowtow madly. At this moment, they were filled with regret. This was because they had regarded the experts of the martial god realm as seniors, or even half a master. They had hoped that those seniors would take a liking to them, but they had never imagined that Lin Ling was actually one of those seniors. Even if they had a good relationship with Lin Ling. So what if Lin Ling gave them some pointers? Bang bang bang. The sound of kowtowing continued. Even though Ma Nan and the others were afraid, they felt even more regret from the bottom of their hearts. This was because they had missed out on something. We all came from the myriad worlds, so why must we kill each other? We all came from the same place, and it's not easy for each other. Sigh. Lin Ling slowly sheathed his sword and looked at them indifferently. However, there was no killing intent in his eyes. To him, these people were simply not worthy of his attention. Of course, the most important thing was that Lin Ling saw his past self in them. At that time, he was blind in the ancient face sect, but he still did his best to become stronger. It was because of these reasons that Lin Ling decided to spare them this time. It's good to become stronger, but don't violate your own principles. You can go. I'll make an exception and not kill you today, but there won't be a next time. Sigh. Shaking his head, Lin Ling carried his sword on his back and set off again like a lonely swordsman. Looking at the lonely and proud back, Ma Nan and the others' eyes were moist. Lin Ling had the same origin as them, but he did not violate his own principles. He did not abandon everything and kill the innocent in order to become stronger. Senior Lin Ling, thank you for not killing us. Sigh. Ma Nan kowtowed heavily in Lin Ling's direction. He had never been convinced in his life. Even when he met Tai Tianyi, it was just a false flattery. However, this was the first time he was convinced by Lin Ling. Lin Ling, wait for me. Sigh. Shi Wenba's mood was complicated, but he quickly chased after him. Seeing Shi Wenba chasing after him, Ma Nan hesitated for a moment, then suddenly shouted, Lord Lin Ling, Lu Yi was killed by him, be careful of him. Careful. Unfortunately, before he could finish his words, the people beside him stopped him. This was because they did not know the relationship between Lin Ling and Shi Wenba. If they said something wrong, others would think that they were trying to sow discord. Lin Ling also came from the myriad world, but his strength is very strong. In this plan, his strength is above average. Careful. We must use him as our goal to become stronger. Careful. I, Ma Nan, will remember today's kindness and will definitely repay it in the future. Careful. Then they also left, but they secretly swore. On the other side, Lin Ling and Shi Wenba were walking forward. Shi Wenba looked at Lin Ling with a complicated expression and said, Lin Ling, I didn't expect you to be so powerful. Careful. It's just luck. Careful. Lin Ling shook his head and smiled. In fact, when he had just become a guide, his strength was already not weak. Then, Lin Ling pondered and said, This earth elemental land is too dangerous. It's not suitable for you, so follow me, I'll take you out. Careful. Leave this place? But there are many treasures here. Frown. Shi Wenba frowned and said, as if he was unwilling. Treasures should be used according to one's ability. On the path of martial arts, one has to take one step at a time. If you want to soar to the sky, many times it depends on luck. Lin Ling advised. He felt that Shi Wenba was a little different from his impression. This thin and weak man's eyes were not as pure as before. There was a hint of fighting spirit. Of course, Lin Ling did not think too much about it. Listen to senior brother Lin Ling. He's definitely right. Yes. The girl beside him immediately said, causing Lin Ling to look at her. The girl's face instantly turned red, looking somewhat cute. She obviously did not dare to look at Lin Ling, which made Lin Ling smile helplessly. Okay, then we'll follow you. Yes. Chapter 2339. Ancient Desert Tower. Alright, I'll protect all of you along the way. Yes. Lin Ling smiled and nodded. In reality, his next goal was to go to the space-time divine steel. It wasn't suitable for him to bring these people along, but these people weren't strong enough. Even if they wanted to harm him, they wouldn't be able to. Moreover, if they continued to stay here, they would definitely die. That was why Lin Ling brought them along. Moreover, Shi Wenba had given Lin Ling a good impression in the beginning. That was the main reason. Lin Ling followed his memory and headed toward the space-time divine steel as they walked forward. Flames and smoke rose into the long river, and the round sun set in the desert. The desert seemed to have no end, and it gave off a desolate and bleak feeling. Rumble! At that moment, there was a rumble in the distance, and smoke rose into the sky. It seemed that a fierce battle was taking place there. Lin Ling frowned in the distance. That was where the space-time divine steel was. It seemed that the space-time divine steel had been discovered. This was a little troublesome for Lin Ling. However, he wasn't worried that the space-time divine steel would be stolen. That was because the space-time divine steel would forever belong to him. Lin Ling. Follow me. Remember, don't let those elites notice you. Yes. Lin Ling reminded them and walked forward quickly. The others followed. Among them, Shi Wenba looked into the distance, and there was a burning light in the depths of his eyes. There seemed to be treasures there. If he could get them, he wouldn't be a lowly guide. He wanted to be like Lin Ling and be worshipped by others. Rumble, rumble, rumble. The rumbling became louder and louder. It was as if thunder had struck the sand, causing waves of sand to rise into the sky. When they got closer, They first saw a large number of ancient and modeled towers. They seemed to be used by ancient people to comprehend martial arts. As they walked forward, they saw a large number of huge ancient towers sitting on the ground. They looked like Buddhist pagodas, but also like sacrificial pagodas. Mysterious auras emanated from the numerous pagodas, letting them know that this place was definitely extraordinary. There were a large number of figures in the ruins of the ancient pagodas. Get lost. Yes. A furious roar suddenly rang out, and the sand that filled the sky danced. Everywhere it passed, many people were directly turned into skeletons, and all the blood in their bodies was sucked away. The people who appeared here were guides, cannon fodder, and experts from various major forces. However, the person who attacked was Luo Xueqi. This person was one of the 9 heavens of Qing province. His strength could be ranked 3rd in this plan. Treasures belong to those who are capable. Luo Xueqi, the treasures here are not yours. At this moment, a whistling sound came from the sky. Dazzling bone wings streaked across the horizon like a sun. The Sunbone had arrived. Another one of the 9 great heavens of Qingzhou. Sunbone, let's fight. The winner gets the treasure. Luo Xueqi raised his head, knowing that a battle was inevitable. As a result, a conflict broke out between the 2 terrifying existences. Not to be outdone, the surrounding experts began to search for treasures around the ancient pagoda ruins. The aura here is very mysterious. It seems to be a fire-type treasure. I feel that it's under the ground, and that treasure can emit an aura from the ground, so it must be extraordinary. Unfortunately, there are too many experts here. It's impossible to search the ground unless the 3 great leaders come. The 3 great leaders are fighting at the heaven-terminating sand. They are fighting over a set of battle armor. However, if they receive the news, they will definitely come here. Then we need to speed up. We need to get the treasure and leave before they come. Around the ancient pagoda, many people were talking. Their eyes were filled with greed. TSK, let's fight. It's best if both sides are injured. Let me be the fisherman and reap the benefits. In the distance, 2 rays of light appeared in the desert. It was the light of a pair of eyes. Then, the sand wriggled, and a demon-like figure crawled out. It was an old man with many needles sticking out of his back. It was Old Monster Lone Mountain. Soon, he sank into the desert again. The same thing happened on the other side. Queen Qianji was sitting on a huge scorpion with her legs crossed. She was smiling as she looked ahead. Looks like everyone wants to be the oriole behind the mantis stalking the cicada. She obviously noticed that there were many experts hiding around the ancient pagoda, waiting for the best opportunity. These old monsters were each more cunning than the other. Boom! Boom! The fierce battle was like the collapse of the heavens and the earth. Huge holes were blasted in the desert. Countless sand demons were implicated by the power and were blasted to death. At the same time, a stone pagoda collapsed. A treasure light shot into the sky. It was the light of colorful flames. The treasure is unearthed. Attack! Attack! The hidden experts' expressions changed drastically. They unleashed their auras and rushed toward the stone pagoda. Lin Ling, what is that light? In the distance, Lin Ling and the others were lying on the ground. They were watching the terrifying battle in the distance. Shi Wenba exclaimed. Space-time flame. Attack! Lin Ling's lips curled into a smile. He saw those flames again. Space-time flame? What is that? Shi Wenba turned to look at Lin Ling. Although he did not know what the space-time flame was, it must be extraordinary if so many old monsters were fighting over it. The space-time flame is one of the 9 primeval flames in the universe. It is the first flame in the universe since the birth of the universe. It is as famous as the other 8 primeval flames. It has existed since time immemorial and has not been extinguished for a long time. Lin Ling said calmly. Shi Wenba and the others gasped. This was because the universal primal chaos was an even older spacetime than the martial god realm. It could be said that the universal primal chaos included the myriad of worlds, including the martial god realm. Before the myriad of worlds were born, the universal primal chaos had already existed. The universal primal chaos had appeared at the same time as the universal primal chaos. This meant that the universal primal chaos was the fire that had created the world, the ancestor of all fires. There are 9 primeval flames in the universe. The flames of the 10,000 worlds are derived from these 9 flames. The space-time flame is the flame that burns time and space. Lin Ling seemed to be in high spirits because it was his right eye, the space-time divine steel. On his path of martial arts, he had refined countless flames. He even had all kinds of flames in his body, such as the Yellow Springs flame. However, in terms of rank, the space-time flame was the true king. Is the heavenly flame going to be taken by those old monsters? Shi Wenba looked at Lin Ling and said. His eyes were filled with unwillingness. Don't worry, the space-time flame won't appear so quickly. Look, there are still some old monsters hiding, thinking that the mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. Unfortunately, the real oriole is here. Lin Ling said confidently. Shi Wenba's expression changed. Lin Ling was so confident? Did Lin Ling know some secrets? However, that was indeed the case. Lin Ling had always been mysterious. His familiarity with the 8 gods' heavenly palace was beyond imagination. Lin Ling, I heard those old monsters talking. They don't seem to know what treasure is hidden here, but you know that the space-time flame is here. So, can I make a request? Shi Wenba looked at Lin Ling and said sincerely. Senior brother Shi Wenba, what request do you want to make? The girl called Little Peach asked with a frown. Lin Ling also looked at Shi Wenba in confusion. Chapter 2340. Race against the clock. Shi Wenba pondered for a moment and said word by word. You know that I came from the myriad worlds. I have no background, and no talent that surpasses theirs. Therefore, this is my only chance. I want to become stronger. I want to bring glory to my ancestors. I don't want to be cannon fodder anymore. I want to be in charge of my own life. Therefore, Lin Ling, please help me. Although he did not know if Lin Ling had a way to obtain the flame, he still had a glimmer of hope. Senior brother Shi Wenba, this request is too difficult. Little Peach immediately exclaimed. How precious the space-time flame was could be seen from the excited expressions of those old monsters. However, Shi Wenba actually asked Lin Ling to help him obtain the flame. Not to mention whether Lin Ling could obtain it. Even if he could, the process would not be easy. Moreover, such a precious thing should be obtained by Lin Ling first. Little Peach, you don't understand. Shi Wenba looked at Little Peach with red eyes and said, I have my enemies. I bear the hatred of the extermination of my clan, so I must become stronger. With that, he stood up and kowtowed to Lin Ling. Lin Ling, rely on your parents at home and rely on your friends outside. Please. Bang, bang, bang. His kowtow sounded from the bottom of his heart, causing the others to open their mouths, but in the end, they did not say anything. Rely on your parents at home and rely on your friends outside. Lin Ling muttered to himself. He had just met Shi Wenba, and the other party had said such a sentence to him, leaving him with a good impression. He smiled and said, All right, I'll try my best to help you obtain the space-time flame. However, the process is very dangerous. Do you dare to gamble? I dare. I'll gamble with my life. Shi Wenba immediately became excited. Hearing this, the eyes of Little Peach and the others flickered. Shi Wenba was gambling with his life, but if Lin Ling helped him obtain the flame, wouldn't that mean that Lin Ling was also gambling with his life? Moreover, Lin Ling did not want such a precious treasure himself and actually helped Shi Wenba obtain it. Lin Ling was willing to sacrifice himself for his friends. Little Peach and the others could not help but feel grateful. Since they had come to the merciless martial god realm, it was truly a good thing to make such a friend. Lin Ling, I owe you my life. Once it's done, you only need to say the word, and I'll do it for you regardless of where you go. Shi Wenba's face was filled with gratitude, but his eyes were filled with a thick ambition. After obtaining that wisp of space-time flame, he would also be able to dominate the martial god realm. Don't be too confident. Firstly, if we want to obtain that flame, we have to snatch it from the old monster's hands. Secondly, the space-time flame hasn't appeared yet. We need to wait patiently. Lin Ling asked Shi Wenba to lie down again as he stared ahead. In truth, he was also waiting. However, he wasn't waiting for the flames of time and space. He was waiting for the divine steel of time and space. Because that was the flame seed. The space-time divine steel was left behind by Li Xiaoyao. Even if he gave it to Shi Wenba, he would not be able to obtain it. Therefore, Lin Ling did not mention it. Boom, boom. At this moment, the battle in the ancient pagoda ruins became more and more intense. Because of the collapse of an ancient pagoda, many hidden old monsters also moved out. However, they discovered that they could not obtain the flame. It was like the moon in the water. This made them think that the other party had stopped them, causing them to miss the flame. Yang Xinggu, you've caused me a lot of trouble. You're the one. Boom, 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 boom. Those old monsters clashed again, and their attacks were earth-shattering. However, a moment later, another ancient pagoda collapsed. This time, the flames gushing out from the bottom of the pagoda were even more dazzling. This time we must obtain it. Boom. Seeing this, the old monsters who had yet to make a move became even more excited. Boom, boom, boom. Like lightning flashing across the sky, figures flew toward the ancient pagoda. Lin Ling, they're going to obtain the space-time flame. Let's go quickly. Hurry. On a distant sand dune, Shi Wenba became more and more excited and could not help but say, Senior brother Shi Wenba, those experts are all there. How can we get close? Little Peach could not help but say. This was sending them to their deaths. Shi Wenba immediately smiled awkwardly. I'm a little anxious. Ha. Lin Ling did not say anything. He was still staring ahead. He knew that it was also a fake space-time flame. However, because of the battle between the experts, the space-time divine steel was slowly rising from the ground. This was also the reason why he was waiting here quietly. Because he needed more power to destroy those ancient pagodas and let him find the Tu-Shi Tower. That was the most important thing. At this moment, his blood was boiling. He was somewhat excited. Boom, 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 boom. The second time the stone pagoda fell, it attracted even more experts. However, they realized that they were only the mantis, not the oriole. This time, even Queen Qianji appeared. Unfortunately, she could only see the flame and could not see it. She was so angry that she clenched her teeth. Fight. As time passed, the experts knew that they could not force themselves. The more they hid, the more likely they would miss something. Boom, boom, rumble. More and more ancient pagodas began to collapse, and the sand on the ground was rolling. Follow me. Almost at the same time, Lin Ling's eyes finally lit up. He led Shi Wenba and the others to an ancient pagoda with 3 fangs carved on it. That ancient pagoda seemed to be extremely stable. It had not collapsed even now. In the ancient pagoda, there were battles everywhere. Therefore, no one noticed them for a while. The Tu-Shi Tower is said to be the pagoda that suppresses the hellworm. This pagoda is the king of all pagodas. In the distance, the desert began to wriggle as a demon-like figure crawled out. It was old eccentric Lone Mountain. His eyes glowed with a demonic green light. Suddenly, he saw that within the ancient pagoda, several ants were using the chaotic battle to sneak around. Most importantly, he recognized one of them. That brat is very familiar with the 8 gods' heavenly palace. If I catch him, I'll probably find out what treasures are buried here. Old monster Lone Mountain revealed a sinister smile and sank into the sand. Faster. At this moment, Lin Ling quickened his pace. His expression was solemn. His life and death were at stake here. Behind him, Shi Wenba was even more excited. For the sake of treasures, he had completely forgotten about their safety. Stop. You guides, are you looking to die? In front of the ancient pagoda, several experts blocked the way. When they saw Lin Ling and the others, they immediately shouted angrily. They did not expect that these guides would dare to take advantage of a place where the old monsters were fighting. Lin Ling not good. Shi Wenba anxiously shouted and quickly hid behind Lin Ling. Lin Ling did not say a word. His right hand quickly pulled out the tyrant song sword, and his left foot fiercely stomped on the ground. Boom! The earth exploded and the sky shook. His left foot stepped out with a boundary energy, causing a pillar of light to shoot into the sky. Among the group of people, 2 of them were sent flying into the sky. It was unknown whether they were alive or dead. The other people's expressions changed drastically. They did not expect the newcomers to be so strong. Were they not guides? You're looking to die. One of them also pulled out a cold sword. When the sword was unsheathed, frost appeared. Beautiful snowflakes drifted out of the desert. In order to kill those guides, this person did not hesitate to use his own boundary energy. Clang! His sword stabbed out in the wind and snow. However, even though he was fast, Lin Ling was faster. Chapter 2341. If you don't go crazy, you won't survive. The tyrannical song sword's dragon energy was also stimulated. Dragon painting finishing touch. This sword was extremely fast, as if it was passing through a world. Shill. A beautiful flower of blood floated out, rippling in the wind and snow. It was immediately frozen into a blood-colored ice cube. Put on. The person who attacked fell on his back. The sword pierced through his forehead. What a fast sword. Almost at the same time, his voice floated out. It was obvious that the sword's speed surpassed his voice. It's Lin Ling. How can he be so strong? The remaining people's faces changed. They were only hiding around the ancient tower to see if they could take advantage of the situation. After seeing Lin Ling, they subconsciously looked down on Lin Ling. This was because Lin Ling was a guide. But now, they knew that they had been tricked by Lin Ling. Kill him. The remaining people erupted with their full strength. Their realm essence blasted out like thunder. It's him. Although the battle on Lin Ling's side wasn't too intense, there were still people who noticed him. Suddenly, the people in the distance sucked in a breath of cold air. They finally knew how strong Lin Ling was. Even Thousand Tools Queen looked at Lin Ling in surprise. After entering the second level, this was the first time she had seen Lin Ling. That brat is still alive. What a tough guy. On the other side, the blue-clothed old man was also fighting with an old monster. He was surprised. He's not dead yet. Sunbone, I think we should stop fighting and capture that ant first. Luo Shawthorn and Sunbone's battle also stopped. They coldly stared at Lin Ling. Blade Mountain Sword Tree. At this moment, Lin Ling knew that he had been exposed. Thus, he had to end this battle quickly. Pang! His body leapt into the air, and the giant sword ruthlessly chopped down like an axe. At this moment, the sand was cut apart. Ultimate Sword Dao. Bang! The sword crazily collided with the realm essences of the people below, shocking the entire battlefield. He's so strong. He can fight 3 World King powerhouses by himself, and one of them is even at the second level of the World King realm. That shocking scene was like a bolt from the blue, causing many people to widen their eyes. Puff! After fighting 3 people in a row, Lin Ling immediately sensed a terrifying power feedback, causing him to spit out a mouthful of blood. However, beneath his sword, 2 powerhouses were directly shaken to death. The remaining second-level World King powerhouse was even stronger. At this time, he was looking at Lin Ling with shock. However, he could also sense that Lin Ling had exhausted all of his strength. Thus, his hand turned into a claw and he ruthlessly grasped out. Spirit Dust Spike. The space was sliced into pieces. That claw was so terrifying. With Lin Ling's current strength, he could defeat a second-level World King powerhouse. But before this, he had been fighting 1 against 3. Thus, when that claw reached out, he seemed unstoppable. Puff! His chest was immediately pierced through and blood splattered onto the sand. Seeing this, the distant Thousand Opportunities Queen frowned. As for the blue-clothed old man, he sighed. He was surprised by Lin Ling's terrifying strength, but he also regretted that Lin Ling had encountered too many opponents. Haha, a single Lu Yin can kill so many powerhouses. Even if you die, it's a glorious death. The man who attacked maintained his clawing posture and sneered at the moment. Heart Flute Sword form. However, he discovered that Lin Ling's eyes were still looking at him. They were cold, so cold that it pierced into his heart, killing 1,000 enemies but injuring 800 of his own. Lin Ling had actually chosen to risk his life like this. He had risked his life to get close to him, all for the sake of using that sword. Not good. The man immediately reacted. He wanted to frantically retreat. Too late. However, Lin Ling had already unsheathed his sword. With a horizontal slash, a head flew out. After the head fell to the ground, the eyes on the head were filled with disbelief. Seeing this, Thousand Opportunities Queen and the blue-clothed old man could not help but laugh. They had underestimated Lin Ling. Lin Ling, you're injured. At this moment, Shi Wenba and the others ran over. Little Peach's eyes were filled with worry. Don't worry about that. Follow me. Follow me. However, Lin Ling did not care about the wound on his chest. He quickly ran forward. With every movement, the sand on the ground splashed onto his chest. Seeing this, Little Peach could not help but feel touched. Lin Ling had killed all the enemies. If it were not for Lin Ling, they would have been dead by now. Are you going to get the time fire? Follow me. As for Shi Wenba, he asked anxiously. It seemed that he did not care about Lin Ling's injury at all. Follow me. Cut the crap. Follow me. However, Lin Ling shouted angrily. Little Peach and the others were puzzled. The enemies were already defeated. Why was Lin Ling in such a hurry? They could not help but turn around. Immediately, they saw many old monsters looking at them with cold eyes. Lin Ling's familiarity with the 8 gods' heavenly palace was obvious to all. Naturally, there would be many people who were eyeing him covetously. We've been exposed. Little Peach. Little Peach said anxiously. She quickly chased after Lin Ling. At this moment, Lin Ling was not worried about the old monsters in the distance. It was the underground that made him anxious. With his sharp soul power, he could sense that there was a terrifying murderous aura coming from underground. It had locked onto them. Therefore he had to race against time. Although he knew that he would be in danger if he was exposed. However, he was not risking his life to help Shi Wenba. It was because of the time and space divine steel. He had to enter that pagoda. If he did not go crazy, he would not survive. If he wanted something, he had to abandon life and death and fight crazily. Rumble. The ground began to tremble. It was as if something was about to rush out from the sand. It had already formed a small sandbag. Sensing the fluctuations of boundary energy behind him, Lin Ling's expression became even more solemn. Boom. Finally, at this moment, the sand exploded and filled the sky. A figure shot over like a porcupine. It was as fast as lightning. Lin Ling could clearly see that it was old monster Lone Mountain. Kiki brat, you've finally fallen into my hands. A cold and gloomy voice drifted out along with the scorching hot sand. Bang! However, at this moment, a figure appeared. It was as if he had been hiding behind Lin Ling. An arm stretched out from the blue cloak. The arm was as smooth as jade, and the 5 fingernails were scarlet red. With a slight movement, a huge mirror appeared. Boom! Old monster Lone Mountain did not expect someone to suddenly appear. He crashed into the mysterious mirror and was sent flying. It's you! After old monster Lone Mountain stabilized himself, he could not help but frown. The person who appeared behind Lin Ling was the most mysterious cloaked figure, Void. Go immediately. Void did not look at Lin Ling. Instead, he said coldly. Why? Lin Ling said as he looked at the back of the figure. Wen Dao. Void pondered for a moment and spat out 2 words. Lin Ling's eyes flashed with shock. Wen Dao? Could it be Grandma Wen Dao? This person is Grandma Wen Dao's subordinate? He was shocked. After leaving the rainforest sacred ground, he had not seen Grandma Wen Dao. Could it be that Grandma Wen Dao had returned to the martial god realm? Thanks. Lin Ling did not say anything and immediately moved forward. Void was still looking at old monster Lone Mountain. He did not move, but his attitude made it clear that he was helping Lin Ling. Since you dared to ruin my plans, die. Chapter 2342. Entering the Tu Shi Ancient Pagoda. Boom, boom, boom. 2 experts with monstrous strength clashed, causing another fierce battle to take place in the ancient pagoda ruins. At this moment, the ancient pagoda ruins could be said to be filled with fireworks. Intense battles were happening in every corner. Of course, there were also people with evil intentions who started shooting towards Lin Ling. However, it was clearly too late. Because Lin Ling had already reached the bottom of the ancient pagoda. The pagoda was very tall, and the 6 walls were engraved with the image of a demon god with 3 heads and 6 arms. Most importantly, the pagoda had no door. Lin Ling, not good. There are people rushing over from that side. Hurry! Little Peach anxiously said, her voice trembling. Lin Ling nodded. His face was unprecedentedly cold. He walked around the ancient pagoda, and finally stopped at one of the directions. His hands started to form spirit formation seals. Scarlet Wind Seal. Hurry! Sorcerer Seal. Hurry! After each spirit formation was engraved, Lin Ling heavily slammed the walls. At this moment, Shi Wenba and the others were staring at Lin Ling. They never would have thought that Lin Ling still had such a method. Lin Ling, obediently tell me what treasures are in this ancient pagoda ruins. Hurry! You seem to be very familiar with the 8 gods' heavenly palace. I think you will bring me to the final floor. Follow me. Come with me. If you take me to those places, I will protect you. Hurry! Many old monsters had already rushed over. In their eyes, Lin Ling already had nowhere to run. At this moment, Lin Ling coldly looked at them, then heavily slammed the wall with his palm. Haha, want to catch me? Old men, your movements are too slow. Hurry! With his slap, the wall in front of him loudly opened, and a large bronze door appeared. Seeing this, those old monsters were all stunned. When they reacted, they could only watch as Lin Ling entered the ancient pagoda. Little bastard! Anger! Angry voices immediately drifted out. They rushed forward and madly attacked the ancient pagoda. However, they discovered that this ancient pagoda was extremely extraordinary. It actually didn't move an inch. How could they know that Lin Ling had been looking for this pagoda all this time? Naturally, this pagoda couldn't be compared to other pagoda. After Lin Ling entered the ancient pagoda, he immediately discovered that it was filled with dust. Some books and ancient treasures were scattered on the ground. Of course, there was also a corpse. The corpse looked like an old monk who had passed away in meditation. It was wearing an ancient kasaya. Lin Ling looked at the corpse and his eyes flickered. So it was him. It seemed like he had also entered this place. Unfortunately, he was unable to break through the restrictions of the ancient pagoda. He could only enter but could not leave. In the end, he died of old age here. Li Xiaoyao also knew that person. In fact, that person had fought with Li Xiaoyao in the Earth Elemental Land. However, that person had disappeared. Shaking his head, Lin Ling didn't bother with the corpse. Lin Ling, is it safe here? Little Peach and the others glanced at the dark ancient tower before turning to Lin Ling. It's safe. At least, it's not something they can break through. Lin Ling replied with a smile. Thinking back to the race against time, he still felt like he was in a dream. It was indeed very dangerous. You guys can collect all the treasures here. After that, Lin Ling stared at the crowd and said, they all belong to us? That's great. Everyone was pleasantly surprised. In fact, many of these books were cultivation techniques. That was why Lin Ling didn't need them. Lin Ling, where's the fire of time? Shi Wenba wasn't interested in the cultivation techniques around him. He looked at Lin Ling expectantly. Lin Ling shook his head. Since you're here, you've already obtained the fire of time. Now, let's take a break. Thank you for before. I know I was too anxious and selfish. This is my fault. You should rest and recover quickly. Shi Wenba only just realized that Lin Ling was seriously injured. He immediately said gratefully, at home I rely on my parents, outside I rely on my friends. Lin Ling casually smiled. Then, he sat down and began to recover from his wounds. Before this, if it weren't for his divinity and demon body greatly increasing his defensive capabilities, then he would have lost the strength to fight. After all, he was only at the first level of the World King realm. He could fight a second-level World King, but he couldn't fight several people in a row. As for Little Peach and the others, as they looked at Lin Ling, they felt warmth in their hearts. Lin Ling had asked them to follow him and promised to protect them as they left. But Lin Ling had kept his word. This was a man who made a promise worth 1,000 gold coins. After a moment, Lin Ling stood up and looked around the pagoda. Finally, he smiled as he found an ancient and mottled compass. He immediately placed it on the ground and poured his world essence into it. Bang! A multicolored beam of light shot out from the compass, causing Lin Ling's hair to dance in the wind. An image appeared in the beam of light. This was a man fighting in the earth elemental ground. He swept away an army of thousands, slaughtering many god beasts and sand monsters. The entire earth elemental ground was stirred up by him. How fierce! Who is this person? The others gathered around. As they were curious, they also discovered that Lin Ling seemed to be very familiar with this ancient pagoda. This person is Li Xiaoyao. Lin Ling deeply looked at the man in the beam of light, ripples appearing in his heart. This beam of light recorded the scenes of this battle in his past life. However, no one here recognized Li Xiaoyao. Little Peach, do you see that stone sculpture? Lin Ling put away his nostalgic thoughts and looked at a stone sculpture on the wall. This stone sculpture was of a 3-headed and 6-armed demon god. It was baring its fangs and brandishing its claws, causing one's heart to palpitate. I see it. Little Peach immediately nodded. Pour your realm essence into the stone sculpture and let it continue to shine. Lin Ling instructed. He wanted to open the Xueqi Tower, and one of the reasons why he asked Little Peach and the others to follow him was because he needed their help. This was because the pagoda had 6 floors, and each floor had a stone sculpture. The stone sculpture had to be activated. This way, the compass would be able to find the divine steel of time and space and begin to summon it. Okay. Little Peach did not hesitate. She walked forward and urged her realm essence, causing the stone sculpture to gradually shine. Remember, don't let the light extinguish, Lin Ling said again, and led the group to the 2nd floor. There were also stone sculptures there, and Lin Ling asked the others to light up the stone sculptures. The layers of stone sculptures gradually lit up, until the 6th floor. The person who lit up this floor was Shi Wenba. Wait a little longer, the fire of time will appear. Lin Ling first reassured Shi Wenba, and then he went to the window of the ancient pagoda. This pagoda had 6 windows, and through the windows, one could see the battle outside the pagoda. At this moment, the battle outside the pagoda was even more intense, and many people were attacking the ancient pagoda, their faces filled with anger. This was because Lin Ling, this weak junior, seemed to be toying with them again. Among this group of monstrous old monsters, there was a huge wave of shock. Previously you guys were arrogant enough. Now it's my turn to act. Lin Ling looked down at the outside of the pagoda. At this moment, he was like the ghost genius Li Xiaoyao who had returned. Xueqi Tower, the ancient pagoda that suppressed the hell worm, wake up. When the stone sculptures on the 6th floor of the ancient pagoda lit up, Lin Ling took out the compass and urged it with his realm essence. Chapter 2343. The descent of the 8 hell corpse worms. An aura that seemed to have come from hell quietly permeated the area. Something is wrong. The surroundings have become very quiet. Even the sound of sand flowing has disappeared. What happened? Not good, something is approaching us. At this moment, the eyes of many old monsters in the ancient tower narrowed. They were powerful, so their intuition told them that a terrifying danger was approaching. However, they didn't know what it was. As for those weaker cultivators, they also began to panic. Something that could make those old monsters reveal such a fearful expression. They were afraid that something ominous was about to happen. Zzzt. At this moment, the sand on the ground was like boiling water. Gradually, worms crawled out from the sand. Ah, what is this? It is entering my body. At the same time, miserable cries rang out. Some martial artists fell to the ground, unable to get up. They rolled around in pain and even tore apart their clothes and skin, revealing their bloody flesh. It's the 8 hell corpse worms. Old Monster Lone Mountain and Sunbone exclaimed at the same time. The 8 hell corpse worms were demonic insects that guarded hell. Before coming to the 8 gods' heavenly palace, they had already seen how terrifying these demonic insects were. However, they disappeared without a trace, so they temporarily forgot about it. Why did these 8 hell corpse worms suddenly appear? Many experts exclaimed. They were beginning to panic. They no longer had the dominating aura from before. The old man's expression greatly changed. He knew that the situation on the battlefield had changed. Whether it was the mantis or the oriole, they had all become cicadas at this moment. However, he was also puzzled as to why these 8 hell corpse worms suddenly appeared. Suddenly, he looked at one of the ancient pagodas. He saw a young man in a blue and white robe standing indifferently at the window of the highest floor of the ancient pagoda. He seemed to be watching everything as if it had nothing to do with him. Could it be him? The old man's mind rumbled. Was it Lin Ling? Almost at the same time, he noticed that Lin Ling was also looking at him. Moreover, the corner of Lin Ling's mouth slightly moved as he silently said something. Senior, leave immediately. Senior. This sentence made the old man realize that it was indeed Lin Ling. Lin Ling had begun his counterattack. In fact, it wasn't just him. Even Hollow had been reminded by Lin Ling, which made the cloaked man's expression very complicated. After meeting Lin Ling, he had never thought of Lin Ling as some kind of expert. And Lin Ling was being held hostage by the old freaks, so he couldn't cause any big waves. But now, this weak junior actually had the ability to dominate the battlefield. However, he didn't think too much about it and immediately left. However, his departure did not mean that the others would leave so easily. Old Devil Lone Mountain and the others also discovered Lin Ling in the ancient pagoda. They were all furious. Was Lin Ling trying to harm them? Die, brat! Lone Mountain angrily roared, causing the entire battlefield to tremble. He shot towards the ancient pagoda like a cannonball. It's him. Since it's him, he's trying to harm us. Kill him. Many old monsters also let out cold voices and attacked one after another. Old man, don't get angry too easily. Otherwise, you'll die even faster. In the ancient pagoda, Lin Ling still stood there and indifferently spat out a sentence. Chi chi chi. Almost as soon as his voice fell, shadows shot out from the desert. These ghost-like shadows seemed to like chasing people. The more powerful the realm essence erupted, the more these shadows were attracted. The shadows were only as thick as a thumb. Their wings flapped like fireflies, and they quickly appeared in front of Lone Mountain and the others. A pair of demonic eyes stared indifferently at everyone. Those eyes seemed to be able to speak. 8 Hellcorpse worms. Lone Mountain and the others exclaimed. At this moment, they were somewhat afraid, because those corpse worms were clearly different. They were probably the king of corpse worms. Careful! An old monster shouted. He wanted to retreat. However, this retreat was obviously too late. Xiu xiu xiu. Those corpse worms shot forward like arrows. Boom boom boom. Seeing this, the powerhouses erupted with powerful attacks. Their faces paled. However, after the realm essence attack, not only did the corpse worms not die, but they even let out cheerful cries. They directly passed through the realm essence, and they were safe and sound. Puff puff puff. The sound of a drum being pierced rang out. The corpse worms entered the powerhouses' bodies. Ah! The powerhouses let out terrified cries. They were in extreme pain. The crowd could see several worms crawling under the skin of the powerhouses. It was terrifying. Pung pung pung. In just a moment, many old monsters fell from the sky. After landing on the ground, their bodies constantly twitched, as if they were suffering inhumane torture before dying. It was too terrifying. These old monsters were late World King Realm Masters, but in front of the Hellworms, they were nothing more than ants. They died just like that. It had to be known that if these old monsters were placed in the myriad worlds, each one of them would be an overlord. Dead, they're all dead. Moreover, more and more 8 Hellcorpse worms are crawling out. Many people took a step back, their faces filled with fear. Some of them were sect masters, and some were ancient martial artists that had been famous for tens of thousands of years. But at this moment, their bodies were trembling. Ah! Old Monster Lone Mountain also cried out in grief. He pulled out his arms but still couldn't find the worms in his body. Finally, his resistance weakened and he fell to the ground, motionless. His eyes stared at the skies before finally falling onto the window of the ancient pagoda. There, a youth stood there like a king. His handsome face was calm even if the heavens were to collapse. His eyes were cold and merciless, cold enough to penetrate one's soul. It's Lin Ling. Old Monster Lone Mountain shouted out his last words. He had once said to Lin Ling that he absolutely could not fall into his hands. Otherwise, he would make Lin Ling suffer a fate worse than death. And at that time, Lin Ling had also said that he, Old Monster Lone Mountain, did not want to fall into Lin Ling's hands. And now, he had indeed fallen into Lin Ling's hands. An early World King Realm Jr. was someone that Old Monster Lone Mountain had killed countless times. But today, he had been turned around by an early World King Jr. The weak had defeated the strong. Was it Lin Ling who brought them here? That fellow is too terrifying. All of the martial artists in the ancient pagoda were looking at Lin Ling. In their eyes, the youth's long hair wildly danced in the wind. Astral winds howled around him, blowing against his blue robes. But the youth's eyes were cold and filled with mockery. So what if he was at the late World King realm? He was going to die all the same. This fellow. The Rays Sandthorn and the Sunbone wished they could tear apart Lin Ling, but that was only in their thoughts. They clearly couldn't do so right now. The only thing they could do was run away. They even had to look up at Lin Ling. And they were the 9 heavens of Azure Province. But, as they saw Lin Ling, they had to run away. This was undoubtedly the greatest irony of all. Chi chi chi. At this time, the great desert was in complete chaos. A massive number of worms crawled out, choosing people to swallow, exhausting all of them. Chapter 23:44. Every man for himself and the devil takes the hindmost. These corpse bugs are like his anger. In the distance, the old man in green retreated quickly. At this moment, he was looking ahead in shock. That was the fury of hell, Lin Ling's anger. Previously, Lin Ling fought against several experts and was suppressed by many old monsters. Now, Lin Ling counterattacked, and his counterattack was extremely crazy. Chi chi chi. At this moment, the ground began to wriggle. Looking carefully, it looked like sand was rolling, but in reality, it was countless corpse bugs crawling. It was hard to imagine that if one fell into those bugs, their bones would not be found. Many warriors died, and even more warriors left the ancient pagoda ruins. At this moment, only Lin Ling remained. This caused thousands of eyes to stare at Lin Ling from afar. Their eyes were filled with anger, jealousy, and unwillingness. No matter what kind of old monster it was, when they met Lin Ling, they had to retreat. Lin Ling had clearly become an existence that no one dared to approach. It was as if he came from hell. All of you scram. On top of the ancient pagoda, Lin Ling looked ahead indifferently and coldly spat out a sentence. In the distance, countless experts found it difficult to refute. They could only gnash their teeth in anger. This. At this moment, Little Peach and the rest had walked up to the 6th floor. Because the stone sculpture no longer required them to continue activating their realm essence, they stared at the scene in front of them in shock. They did not expect that after Lin Ling activated the Tu-Shi Tower, its power would be so strong. Those old monsters should be regretting provoking Lin Ling. So powerful, Shi Wenba said in fear. Lin Ling smiled and nodded. They only have themselves to blame. No matter what, with our strength, we can make those old monsters retreat. This is already a miracle, Little Peach immediately said. She looked at the ancient pagoda and said, "This ancient pagoda is really mysterious. When those old monsters attacked the ancient pagoda did not move at all." Lin Ling explained, "This is called the Tu-Shi Tower. Once the taboo is activated, you can only come out from the inside. You can't come in from the outside. No attacks can affect the tower." His eyes were also looking at the compass. Gradually, a smile appeared on his face. This was because the space-time divine steel had started to rise from the ground. With the 8 hell corpse worm under the tower, no one could stop him from obtaining the time and space divine steel. Those greedy old monsters could only watch from afar. Rumble. At this moment, the earth trembled. The surface of the ground was opened up, and a pillar of light shot into the sky, burning a large number of corpse bugs. The fire of time. This was the true fire of time. The treasure has finally been unearthed. The old monsters in the distance licked their lips, but when they thought about how they couldn't get close to that place, they flew into a rage out of humiliation. Rumble. As time passed, more and more pillars of light shot up into the sky. From afar, it was extremely dazzling. However, what was shocking was that no matter how the ancient tower changed, no matter how many ancient towers fell, the Tu-Shi Tower remained unmoved. This Tu-Shi Tower was indeed extraordinary. Almost at the same time, Lin Ling's hands formed a complicated barrier, forming a hexagonal ancient barrier. In front of him, a strand of multicolored flames was attracted over and gradually floated above the barrier. He obtained that mysterious flame. Lin Ling, I'm going to die from anger. In the distance, the crowd was in an uproar. They were very jealous. Lin Ling carefully withdrew the barrier, only to see that the flame was still floating above the ancient barrier. Then, he looked at Shi Wenba and said with a smile, "Rely on your parents at home, and rely on your friends outside. Because your words have moved me, this flame is yours." The fire of time and space. Hearing that, Shi Wenba excitedly muttered to himself. His hands and feet were at a loss. He didn't expect Lin Ling to actually succeed. Lin Ling didn't say much. He inserted the space-time flame into Shi Wenba's body. To him, this was as easy as lifting a finger. After all, the space-time flame was not the space-time divine steel. One was the servant, and the other was the master. In fact, if Lin Ling obtained the space-time divine steel, He could make many people give birth to the space-time flame and make him their king. However, Shi Wenbo didn't know that. He thought that he was the only one who possessed the space-time flame. However, the process of refining the flame was not easy. Shi Wenbo had almost died. Fortunately, Lin Ling's ancient barrier was sharp, allowing him to succeed in the end. Sensing the flame in his body, Shi Wenbo's spirit was greatly roused. He couldn't help but roar. Congratulations, Senior Shi Wenbo. Little Peach and the others immediately smiled. This made Shi Wenbo feel as if he had broken out of his cocoon and become a butterfly. He had spent so much effort and finally obtained results. Then he looked at Lin Ling. His heart was filled with excitement as he kowtowed to Lin Ling. However, Lin Ling didn't have time to pay attention to him. He was still paying attention to the ground. That was because more and more light pillars rushed out from the ground. This meant that the space-time divine steel was getting closer and closer. At that moment, he couldn't help but become nervous. As for Shi Wenbo beside him, he was very excited at first. However, when he saw that Lin Ling was not moving, he sensed that Lin Ling also wanted the space-time flame. However, only one person could possess the space-time flame. A mountain couldn't hide two tigers. Shi Wenbo became conflicted in his heart. That was because Lin Ling had helped him before. Lin Ling was the first person he had treated as a friend after coming to the martial god realm. He sensed that Lin Ling had also slowly become stronger from a weak point. That was why he felt a sense of resonance when he saw them. However, if Lin Ling could help him obtain the space-time flame, then he could definitely obtain it himself. Moreover, Lin Ling also had the strength to take back the space-time flame. Every man for himself and the devil takes the hindmost. Lin Ling, I'm sorry. Roar. Shi Wenbo roared in his heart. At that moment, Lin Ling was still looking outside the pagoda. The desert outside the pagoda had disappeared and turned into a lava zone. The 8 hell corpse worms had all been burned to ashes. The expressions of the people in the distance changed drastically. Those flames were even more terrifying than the corpse worms. I'm sorry. At that moment, Shi Wenbo roared. His eyes were red as he pushed with both hands. Lin Ling didn't expect Shi Wenbo to attack him. He was standing by the window and paying attention to the ground. That was why he was pushed out of the ancient pagoda without warning. After the ancient pagoda's restriction was activated, one could only leave and not enter. Shi Wenbo obviously knew this, so he attacked. This was also his only chance to kill Lin Ling. Senior brother Shi Wenbo, you? Little Peach and the others reacted and looked at Shi Wenbo in shock. Shi Wenbo's face became ferocious. The clean eyes of the past had disappeared, and only ambition was left. He had brought Chun Zhen to the martial god realm to achieve great things. However, he had seen the fickleness of human nature. He could only be cannon fodder, so he knew that he had to become stronger. Every man for himself. Shi Wenbo heavily spat out these words and then kowtowed towards the window. Lin Ling, you are my benefactor. I will never forget you in this life. He seemed to want to use these words to comfort himself so that he wouldn't feel guilty. At this moment, Lin Ling was smashed into the lava outside the pagoda. His eyes were extremely cold. In fact, helping Shi Wenbo was as easy as lifting a finger. The reason why he helped Shi Wenbo was because of Shi Wenbo's words. Rely on your parents at home and rely on your friends outside. These words were very sincere. However, although Lin Ling helped Shi Wenbo, it didn't mean that he was a fool. Chapter 2345. You're not a tiger. Therefore, he helped Shi Wenbo because even if Shi Wenbo wanted to harm him, Lin Ling was not afraid. However, Lin Ling did not expect that Shi Wenbo would actually harm him. You will regret this. Lin Ling smiled, and his smile became cruel. One thought to heaven, one thought to hell. Becoming a brother and a friend was a heavenly treatment. But becoming an enemy was hell. Lin Ling, you can't blame me. If you want to blame someone, blame yourself for being so strong. You and I are both from myriad worlds. Why can you make those seniors pay attention to you while I'm just a trash? Shi Wenbo threw caution to the wind and roared. Let me tell you, I also killed Lu Yi. Boom. As soon as he said that, Lin Ling's eyes turned red. Lu Yi wanted to take advantage of Lin Ling in the past, but he was interrupted by Shi Wenbo. After that, Lin Ling saw Lu Yi die in the desert. It turned out that Lu Yi was killed by Shi Wenba. Shi Wenba was very shrewd. He gave people the impression that he was kind and willing to help others. In fact, he only wanted to call on those guides. Lin Ling, you can only blame yourself for being blind. You misjudged me, but you are my benefactor. I, Shi Wenba, will remember you for the rest of my life. In the future, I will personally set up a memorial tablet for you and kowtow every day to apologize for my sins. Shi Wenba stood up, and his aura quietly turned into the aura of a fierce and ambitious person. He had endured humiliation and finally today, he had accumulated enough strength. Haha, not bad at all. Compared to those experts like Old Monster Lone Mountain, you are clearly more terrifying. Lin Ling still smashed towards the ground, and his eyes revealed the domineering aura of a fierce and ambitious person. The two kings, one in the sky and one on the ground, collided with each other's gazes. Shi Wenba was not strong, but he was ambitious and could endure humiliation. This was more terrifying than many talented geniuses. He was indeed a fierce and ambitious person. Shi Wenba immediately laughed. A mountain can't hide two tigers. Lin Ling, only I, Shi Wenba, can obtain the time fire. Haha, you just obtained the time fire, and you think you are a tiger? You don't have the qualifications to be a tiger in front of me. Just you wait, I will come for you. Lin Ling was too lazy to explain anything, and allowed himself to smash into the lava. On the other hand, Shi Wenba's heart trembled. He was a little afraid because this mysterious young man, Lin Ling, had sharp means and was mysterious and unfathomable. He was able to play around with the old monster. However, when he saw Lin Ling disappear into the lava, he laughed. Lin Ling was definitely going to die. Brother Shi Wenba, you are repaying kindness with enmity. Little Peach and the others stared at Shi Wenba with bloodshot eyes. They never thought that Shi Wenba would be so ugly. All of you will understand in the future. Shi Wenba shook his head, and his aura became a notch higher. He said indifferently, for Lin Ling's sake I won't kill you. Shameless. Little Peach and the others scolded. However, they could not do anything about Shi Wenba's strength. However, Shi Wenba did not know that Lin Ling did not guard against him. The main reason why he fell from the ancient tower was because of the appearance of the time and space divine steel. Lin Ling did not want to miss the time and space divine steel, so he did not attack. I didn't expect that Lin Ling would be killed by the people around him after playing with us old monsters. What a pity. That Lu Yin is shameless. As the saying goes, a drop of water should be repaid with a gushing spring. He is afraid that Lin Ling is stronger than him, so he attacked Lin Ling. A mountain can't hide two tigers. Is he qualified to be compared to Lin Ling? The people in the distance frowned. Lin Ling was strong, but Shi Wenba could only rely on shameless means. The two were not on the same level. Trash. Qian Ji and the others stared at the ancient tower angrily. Rumble. At this moment, the ancient tower had turned into a sea of fire. The desert was like an island floating on top of the lava. As for the power of the flames, even true immortal realm experts did not dare to get close to it. What happened here? Could it be the space-time flame? Unfortunately, we are too late. At this time, whistling sounds could be heard. Dozens of figures appeared in the sky above the desert. They looked at the lava in front of them with serious expressions. These people were all true immortal realm experts. Among them were the 3 leaders and many unknown experts. The 10 great sword immortals of Qingzhou? That's the chess ancestor. Some of the old monsters who had been in the martial god realm all year round recognized these unfamiliar experts. They did not expect these experts to come as well. It seemed like they had been following them secretly. The space-time flame? I heard that the place with the flame will have that thing. A man with a bamboo sword on his back said with a frown. He obviously knew more than the others. As soon as he finished speaking, the other top experts' expressions changed. Could it be the space-time divine steel? They stared at the lava as if they were looking for a needle in a haystack. They wanted to find the space-time divine steel, but they were disappointed. They did not see the space-time divine steel. Damn it, we should have come earlier. Sunset Brilliance, one of the 3 leaders, said regretfully. His aged face was full of regret. The space-time divine steel has disappeared. I'm afraid it has been obtained by someone. After saying that, he looked at the old monsters around him with a suspicious expression. Based on his guess, Ordinary people could not obtain the space-time divine steel unless they were true immortal realm experts. Therefore, the space-time divine steel might have been obtained by these people around him. And if they had obtained the space-time divine steel, no one would reveal it. Naturally, they would be putting on an act. Sunset brilliance, what are you looking at? If I had obtained that treasure, would I hide it from you? The old man called Chess Ancestor reprimanded. If Lin Ling's chess boy was here, he would definitely respectfully call him master. Hee hee, that's hard to say. Another voice sounded. It was one of the three leaders, and Yi. They each had their own ulterior motives. They all suspected that someone in this group had obtained the space-time divine steel. As for the people below, the possibility was not high because those people were not strong enough to obtain the space-time divine steel. The desert is starting to flood back. At this moment, another person spoke. The lava began to flow backward, and the sand gradually drowned the lava. Sigh, we're late. The old monsters sighed. They had clearly missed the space-time divine steel. What happened earlier? Can anyone tell me? Battle Emperor Ling Ying, one of the three leaders, pointed at the crowd below, causing 3 people to explode and die. Then, someone immediately said, Senior Battle Emperor Ling Ying, Lin Ling appeared earlier. That person recounted what had happened earlier. Someone obtained the space-time fire? The old monster's eyes flickered, but they clearly did not care much. Although the space-time fire was also very precious, it could not be compared to the space-time divine steel. Of course, only they knew this. Everyone else thought that the treasure here was the space-time fire. This kid called Lin Ling is really amazing. He actually activated the 2 Shi Towers taboo and summoned the space-time divine steel. Unfortunately, with his strength, he couldn't obtain it at all. In the end, he could only die with hatred. An ingrate has appeared by his side. Chapter 2346. The underground battle. Of course, if they knew that not only was Lin Ling not dead, but he had even jumped into the lava on purpose, who knew what they would think? If they knew that the space-time divine steel had been taken by Lin Ling, they would be even more shocked. Sigh, I didn't expect to come here for nothing. Let's go. Then, the top old monsters left with regretful looks on their faces. The crowd also gradually dispersed. They were also extremely depressed, because they had returned empty-handed. Not bad, you did well. After leaving here, you can go to my only me commandery. After Shi Wenba and the rest walked down from the ancient pagoda, the Luo Shawthorn looked over and praised them. Shi Wenba walked forward step by step. He was delighted and excited. In the past, the sand spike did not even bother to remember his face. But now, the sand spike actually took the initiative to talk to him. This meant that he had been recognized. This was the benefit of increasing one's strength. Now that you have obtained the space-time fire, your future will be bright. If you have nowhere else to go, you can come to my Grand Court Commandery. Sunbone also invited Shi Wenba. He was very satisfied with Shi Wenba's talent. Thank you, my lords. Shi Wenba hurriedly bowed. He knew that he had done the right thing by harming Lin Ling. Only by killing Lin Ling could he soar. Unfortunately, he did not know that his actions had consigned him to eternal damnation. Despicable person. The green-robed elder looked at Shi Wenba with cold eyes. However, the 2 heavenly talents of Qingzhou had spoken, so he knew that he could not kill Shi Wenba. At this moment, the lava was rolling like a fire dragon underground. A figure was slowly moving along the lava. A large number of enchantments appeared around his body, blocking the scorching flames. He had his hands behind his back. His blue robe fluttered in the wind. His pace was neither fast nor slow. He was like a fire god moving forward. He was Lin Ling. Everyone thought that Lin Ling had fallen into the lava because he had been framed. However, they did not know that even if Shi Wenba had not done anything, Lin Ling would still have moved forward. On the contrary, through Shi Wenba's actions, Lin Ling could be considered to have seen through a person. If Shi Wenba knew that Lin Ling was still alive, he would definitely regret it to death. Because, not only did he not kill Lin Ling, but he also caused Lin Ling's hatred towards him to reach the peak. And for Lin Ling to hate someone so much, anyone who knew Lin Ling knew that this person was definitely going to die. The barrier around us is about to disappear. We have to find the space-time divine steel as soon as possible. Lin Ling muttered to himself. Tens of millions of lava rivers began to converge. Gradually, a mysterious ancient tablet floated in the middle of the multicolored lava, emitting an ancient mottled aura. Around the ancient monolith, primal chaos was circulating. It was extremely mysterious. However, an old man in a kasaya was sitting in front of the stone tablet. When Lin Ling approached, he finally opened his eyes. I was wondering who could find the space-time divine steel so quickly. So it's you, the old man said indifferently. He seemed to have been here for a long time, so he knew that it would be extremely difficult for others to find the space-time divine steel unless it was that person. And that person was none other than Li Xiaoyao. You're not dead yet. Looks like you almost got the space-time divine steel. Unfortunately, you failed in the end and your soul is trapped here forever. Lin Ling continued to walk forward and said indifferently, your corpse is still in the Xueqi Tower, but I didn't clean it up for you. This person was the corpse in the Xueqi Tower. Obviously, he did not have Lin Ling's methods and was trapped in the Xueqi Tower. Therefore, he could only abandon his physical body and enter the underground to find the space-time divine steel. However, he had failed again. He did not obtain the space-time divine steel, but instead became its guardian soul. I know that you're the one who left this steel. You can definitely obtain it easily. However, before that, I will stop you. The old man said solemnly as he stood up. Then come at me. If you defeat me, you'll obtain the method to open the space-time divine steel. However, you may not be able to defeat me. You couldn't in the past, and you can't today. Lin Ling slowly pulled out the Tyrant Song sword. Actually, you know that you have no hope of obtaining the space-time divine steel. I know, I definitely know. However, I will stop you. I lost to Li Xiaoyao in the past, but I will defeat you today. The old man said excitedly. Even if Lin Ling taught him the method, it would be very difficult for him to obtain the space-time divine steel because he was just a soul. Come and fight. A ray of blue light appeared, and the old man's kasaya disappeared. He also started to change silently and gradually turned into a handsome young man. He wore a long blue robe and held an ancient sword in his hand. His chiseled face was as calm as an ancient well. It was Lin Ling. He had turned into Lin Ling. Scarlet cover Buddhist mantra. Lin Ling's expression changed slightly. He did not expect the old man to use this Buddhist technique. This Buddhist technique was very powerful. It could mimic everything that others did, and any move could be learned in an instant. It was extremely powerful. In fact, if the old man used all his soul power to fight Lin Ling might not be his match. However, the old man was too familiar with Lin Ling. Although Lin Ling's cultivation level was not high, his methods were beyond imagination. Therefore, the old man decided to go all in and mimic Lin Ling. The advantage of this was that he knew everything that Lin Ling knew, and he was even more skilled. Let me see how much you've improved over the years. Lin Ling drew his sword. His sword seemed to have accumulated a lot of strength as it slashed out fiercely. Dragon Qi was released from the Tyrant Song sword. The godly demon body also descended. 10 years of polishing a sword. Black sword record? I know it too. The old man in the form of a young man also swung his sword. Clang! The two swords collided, and a deafening sound drifted out. The two of them were evenly matched. Finishing touch. Lin Ling's Tyrant Song sword shook heavily and shook off his opponent's sword. His sword turned into a stab, like a dragon soaring into the sky. I know it too. The old man sneered. It was the same confident smile as Lin Ling. The sword in his hand shook, and he quickly drew his sword. Clang! The tip of the sword clashed with the tip of the sword, and sparks flew everywhere. Then, the two figures clashed violently in the lava, as if two super-powerful swordsmen were clashing. Dodging domain. Lin Ling used his ultimate techniques one by one, but his opponent imitated them instantly. The moves were the same as his, and they were extremely difficult to deal with. Most importantly, the barrier around Lin Ling's body was getting dimmer and dimmer. Without the barrier, Lin Ling would very likely be swallowed by the lava. Therefore, time was of the essence. Hee hee. The young man opposite Lin Ling laughed sinisterly. He knew that Lin Ling must be very flustered at this moment. However, when he raised his head to look at Lin Ling, he found that Lin Ling's expression was still unchanged. His indifferent look was very similar to Li Xiaoyao's. The former ghost genius Li Xiaoyao had experienced countless life and death situations. In the face of this predicament, he would not panic at all. Sword Mountain and Sword Tree. At this moment, a giant sword slashed out. Lin Ling had once again unleashed a powerful move. At this moment, he had also activated the ultimate sword Dao. Chapter 2347. Break Invincible. Amazing. As expected of Li Xiaoyao, the other party sneered and instantly imitated Lin Ling's ultimate technique. He also swung out a huge sword pillar. What was even more frightening was that not only was he able to imitate Lin Ling's soul force, he was even able to imitate his physical strength. I don't believe that you don't have any flaws. After his sword failed, Lin Ling coldly spat out a sentence. His sword was like a swimming dragon, dancing in the sea of lava. I really don't have any flaws. If you don't believe me, use your 10,000 mammoths' demonic eyes. The other party revealed an evil smile and was extremely confident. However, after Lin Ling utilized the myriad devil eyes, he was indeed unable to see his opponent's weakness. The only weakness was that so long as he defeated his opponent would be annihilated. One had to know that the 10,000 mammoths' magic eyes could see through the enemy's moves and martial arts. But at this moment, his opponent was imitating Lin Ling's moves and martial arts. This meant that Lin Ling was trying to find his own flaws. As for Lin Ling, since he was able to cultivate the Omega Sword Dao, he would naturally choose the best martial arts method. Even if there were flaws, they would be negligible. Thus, it would be very difficult to find any flaws. Again, Yellow Springs Flame, 6 Paths of Reincarnation. Lin Ling had even used a law martial technique, but his opponent knew it too. It was terrifying. As a result, Lin Ling's expression became more and more serious. He didn't have much time left. So your Dharma isn't invincible. It has a flaw. Lin Ling said indifferently after exchanging several hundred blows. I knew that you would see through the flaw sooner or later. That's right, the flaw of my Dharma is the process of imitating you. There is a slight delay in speed. His opponent laughed coldly. It was impossible for him to imitate Lin Ling's moves in an instant. For example, if Lin Ling used a sword move, he would need time to imitate it, and that time was subtle breath. A breath was 1,000th of a breath of time. It was fast, faster than the blink of an eye. Therefore, even if Lin Ling knew his flaws, it was useless. I will find your flaws again. Lin Ling did not have the slightest intention of giving up. He displayed all the martial arts he had learned in his life. The accumulation of these martial arts was extremely terrifying because it included Li Xiaoyao's martial arts. Me too. However, the other party had managed to learn it in an instant. Even though he was slower by a few breaths, it didn't affect him at all. He and Lin Ling were only tied, but if the battle dragged on, Lin Ling would be burned to death by the surrounding lava. Boom! After an unknown period of time, Lin Ling's body erupted with a terrifying aura. In this crazy battle he broke through. At the second stage of the World King realm, one had the strength of 2 worlds within their body. Boom! However, just as Lin Ling broke through, the evil youth also erupted with a terrifying aura. He had also broken through. Invincible! This was true invincibility. Even Lin Ling's expression changed slightly. This guy's imitation was too freakish. Li Xiaoyao, you don't have much time left. The other party lifted his sword, faintly looking at Lin Ling. His confident smile became even thicker. Lin Ling began to ponder. The martial arts he knew, the other party knew as well. The other party knew all of his methods. The only flaw was that there was only a few breaths of time. That's right. Lin Ling's pupils brightened. Let's have a life or death battle. Burn your world essence. Bang! At this time, the world essence of a second-stage world king was completely combusted. This caused the other party to be stunned. This was because combusting one's world essence was a desperate move. This meant that Lin Ling was going all out. Of course, this was also normal. Because if Lin Ling didn't go all out, he would definitely be burned to death by the lava. Do you think you are the only one who can burn your world essence? The other party darkly smiled. He also burned his world essence, causing his strength to crazily rise. At this time, both of them had the strength to fight a third-stage world king. They could even kill someone at that level. They were true monstrous geniuses. Rumble, rumble, rumble. The battle beneath the lava became even more intense. As time passed, the auras of the two people began to dim. This was because combusting one's world essence was also a method of suicide. The longer one burned their world essence, the more likely they were to die. Li Xiaoyao, to have you accompany me in death. My life has been worth it. The evil youth was also very weak, but he was also very excited. He had done it and prevented Li Xiaoyao from obtaining the time and space divine tablet. Blade Mountain Sword Tree. Facing this youth's ridicule, Lin Ling didn't say a word. He forcefully combusted all of his world essence and used his most terrifying sword strike. Seeing this, the other party naturally imitated Lin Ling and erupted with a desperate strike. The evil youth even knew that after Lin Ling's sword strike, he would die. This was because all of his world essence would be burned away. I am you and you are me. If you die, I die too, haha. The evil youth savagely laughed. His sword was like a pillar, wildly colliding with Lin Ling's sword strike. Rumble, rumble, rumble. At this moment, the lava was finally stirred up into a whirlpool. It was terrifying. After all, this was the time and space fire that even true immortals didn't dare to approach. At this moment, Lin Ling's pupils constricted. He sensed that the world essence in his body was about to be burned away. He finally sneered. I am me and you are you. If you die, I won't die. Die. At this critical moment, he forcefully extinguished the burning world essence and withdrew all of his power. Because if he continued to burn, he would undoubtedly die. The evil youth was stunned. Lin Ling wasn't planning to commit suicide? He hurriedly withdrew all of his world essence. However, he forgot that he was a bit slower when imitating Lin Ling. This short period of time was a fatal wound. Because he was too slow. And also because Lin Ling extinguished his world essence at the most crucial moment. When it was his turn, he could no longer suppress the burning speed of his world essence. Rumble. His world essence was completely burned away. His entire body turned gray. He stood there foolishly holding his sword, as if he couldn't believe everything before his eyes. His dharma came from a senior monk in the martial god Crimson Province. That expert was even stronger than Li Xiaoyao in the past. This caused his dharma to be boundless, absolutely invincible. But now, this invincibility was broken. Li Xiaoyao was Li Xiaoyao indeed. This ability to remain fearless in the face of danger was unparalleled. Cough cough. Lin Ling coughed up blood. Moreover, he quickly walked toward the ancient monument in front of him. When he passed by the old man, he said indifferently, You have lost again. I accept my defeat wholeheartedly. You are Lin Ling, right? From today onwards, Li Xiaoyao has returned. The old man began to return to his original appearance. He revealed a bitter smile. His body shattered like paper. Seeing this, Lin Ling revealed a proud smile. That old man was a bone lantern. In the past, he was extremely famous in the martial god realm. Later on, he lost to Li Xiaoyao. Today, he defeated him again. This meant that he, Li Xiaoyao, had returned. Pa! When the barrier around his body was about to disappear, Lin Ling's hand finally touched the ancient monument. Rumble! The lava shook as if heaven and earth were collapsing. A multicolored light shot toward Lin Ling's right eye, causing him to completely faint. Almost at the same time, his body was crazily burned and finally disappeared without a trace. Chapter 2348. 2 danshans after an unknown amount of time, the lava gradually extinguished, turning into a solid rock river that lay under the mountains of the martial god realm. In the river, a slender figure lay there. His skin was glossy, and if one looked carefully, the blood vessels under his skin seemed to be flowing like lava. After being refined by the flame of time and space, Lin Ling's god-demon body improved again, reaching 5,000 universe power. Time quietly passed, and the rock river was very quiet. Small beasts walked by and looked at the youth lying on the ground. They all quietly approached because the youth gave them a very comfortable feeling. Warm sunlight slowly sprinkled down at this moment, bathing all things under a thin veil. The young man above the river of rocks had his long hair draped down, and he had the lazy aura of a king. On his handsome face, his slender eyelashes moved slightly under the sunlight. Oh! Lin Ling opened his eyes. His left eye had a large number of Dao seals, and his right eye had a mysterious ancient tablet. Of course, The strangeness of his eyes quickly disappeared. The space-time divine tablet has completely returned. Lin Ling revealed a gratified smile. My left eye is one of the 6 great god eyes, and my right eye is one of the 9 great flames. My talent has reached the peak. Primal Chaos Divine Formula. Then, Lin Ling shouted, and the 3 cultivation of essence, energy, and spirit in his body turned into a mysterious power that crazily rotated. His physical strength had reached a new level, and so had his soul power. His flame talent had returned, and his 3 domains had all stepped into the ranks of a new world. Boom boom boom. Lin Ling's body rumbled, and a new dantian was opened up. This dantian was weak at first, but it gradually grew until it became a boundary spirit dantian. In this way Lin Ling had 2 dantians. As everyone knew, the dantian was the source of power. Any martial arts and world essence came from there, but a martial artist only had 1 dantian. This was the law of heaven and earth. However, Lin Ling had 2 dantians, and this was the abnormal part of the primal chaos divine formula. What did it mean to have 2 dantians? This meant that if Lin Ling fought a second-stage world king, he would be able to easily kill his opponent. If one dantian's world essence was exhausted, he could use a second one. Moreover, if 2 dantians' world essences fused together, his strength would reach a terrifying limit. To fight a 4th-level world king wasn't difficult at all. In fact, if he burned his world essence, that would be terrifying. The first stage of the primal chaos divine formula is complete. After a long time, Lin Ling smiled. His strength had greatly increased. However, he used the second dantian to hide the flame of time and space. That dantian was also a flame dantian, also known as the flame world. As for his first dantian, he used it to cultivate his Omega Sword Dao. After that, Lin Ling changed into clean clothes, stroked the little beasts around him, and strode away. Shi Wenba, can't a mountain hide 2 tigers? In my eyes, you're really not a tiger. At this moment, he was once again like a proud and aloof swordsman as he embarked on his journey. Clouds swirled around the green mountain, a gentle wind blew, a waterfall broke free, cold and clear. The ancient green mountain moved like ink. Clouds and mist drifted in the sky. From time to time, martial artists would pass through the skies or walk along the green mountain. This place wasn't too far from the great swamp of the 8 gods' heavenly palace. Thus, these people had heard the news and also wanted to enter the 8 gods' heavenly palace. But they were clearly too late. What? The 8 gods' heavenly palace is closed? Yes, everyone that entered the 8 gods' heavenly palace came out. They can't enter the next level. Then we didn't come here in vain. In the immortal land of ink and green mountains, many martial artists were sighing, extremely regretful. It is said that in the 2nd level of earth travel, many people obtained good harvests. The 3 great leaders were also the same. But, the most precious treasure seems to have been missed. It is said that someone obtained the time fire. Tizkaiske, what kind of treasure is that? But if it can appear in the 8 gods' heavenly palace, that strange flame must be extraordinary. But if we have to talk about who is the most fierce in the 8 gods' heavenly palace, it is without a doubt Lin Ling of the Martial God Battalion. Who is Lin Ling? Could he be a new rising genius? How does he compare to the 9 heavens of the Qing province? This person has just risen, so of course he cannot compare to the 9 heavens. But this person played with a group of old monsters. It is said that many experts died in his hands, including Old Monster Lone Mountain. What a powerful junior! In the mountain range, many martial artists were chatting as they walked. They had missed the 8 gods' heavenly palace, but they were extremely curious about what happened there. At this moment, Lin Ling was slowly walking on the ancient mountain path. He also heard the voices in the distance. It seems like it is as I guessed. Those people did not enter the 3rd level. They should have all left by now. Lin Ling said with a smile. Even Li Xiaoyao was stopped at the 2nd level. Naturally, no one else could enter the 3rd level. Quickly find Shi Wenba, then return to the Martial God Battalion. Lin Ling continued walking, his soul force gushing out like water. He wanted to find Shi Wenba. He had to kill this person, not only for himself, but also for Lu Yi, who had died tragically. It's them? Then Lin Ling could not help but smile. At this moment, on the other side of the mountain, several figures were walking along the mountain path. They were Little Peach and the others. I didn't expect Shi Wenba to be such a person. We were all wrong about him. Unfortunately, Lin Ling is dead. Otherwise, Lin Ling would not have let Shi Wenba go. The current Shi Wenba disdains to associate with us. Little Peach and the others spoke as they walked. In fact, they had left the 8 gods' heavenly palace for 3 months. In the beginning, they still followed Shi Wenba, but gradually, they found that Shi Wenba did not care about them at all. He was even more aloof in front of them. Therefore, they chose to leave in the end. They and Shi Wenba were people of 2 different worlds. The current Shi Wenba was no longer the past guide. There were many people who wanted to recruit him. As for them, they were still lowly guides. Haha, leaving without saying goodbye. Isn't that a bit too immoral? But at this time, 3 figures walked out from the dense forest in front of them. 2 were middle-aged men and 1 was an old man. Their strength was at the first level of the World King realm. It's you, Senior Jian Bingy. Little Peach and the others stopped, their complexions changing. They recognized these 3 people because during this time, they had followed Shi Wenba to a city called Nine Dragon City. Shi Wenba was highly valued in the city, and the city lord had even betrothed his daughter to Shi Wenba. And that old man Jian Bingy was the city lord's subordinate. What do you want to do? Sensing that these 3 people had ill intentions, Little Peach and the others were on guard. You left without saying goodbye. That is not placing Nine Dragon City in your eyes. So, what do you think we want to do? The old man lightly said. Chapter 2349. I never promised not to kill you. Ha ha. Who would have thought that not only would these people not be startled, but they would instead laugh? The old man shook his head. You are too naive, because the one who wants to kill you is Shi Wenba. If you stay by his side then you won't die. But if you leave him then you will die. This is because you know too many things. Moreover, you have cultivation methods from the 8 Divinity Heavenly Palace that Shi Wenba has asked us to take back for him. Haha. Shi Wenba wants to kill us? Haha. Hearing this, Little Peach and the others couldn't believe their ears. They had come from 10,000 worlds with Shi Wenba. They had shared joys and sorrows together, weathering trials and tribulations together. But after Shi Wenba soared into the heavens, they had been abandoned. Some people can only share trials and tribulations, not riches and honor. Now that Shi Wenba is about to rise, he will inevitably enter the 3 great academies of Blue Province. You know too many of his secrets, so how could he possibly allow you to live? Haha. The old man slowly walked forwards, speaking as he did so. Dang dang dang. Seeing this, Little Peach and the others retreated, their faces pale. Although they believed the old man's words, the truth was still a heavy blow to them. This was because as long as they were alive, they wouldn't be able to threaten Shi Wenba. But Shi Wenba still wanted to eliminate them by the roots. This was completely different from the kind and gentle man in their memories. You are only pitiful guides. If you die here, no one will care, and no one will help you. Haha. The old man's complexion became even colder. Killing Little Peach and the others was no different from stepping on weeds on the side of the road. The 2 people beside him also sneered. They clenched their fists and released them, killing intent gushing out from them. However, just as they were about to attack, a calm voice sounded out. I can help them. As this voice sounded out, the entire Green Mountain seemed to fall silent. Everyone turned to see a youth in blue and white robes slowly walking down the ancient rocky mountain path. He had an ancient sword and long hair. It was a startling sight. Little Peach and the others stared at this figure, not believing their own eyes. It was him. Sir, this is a matter of our Nine Dragon City. You shouldn't interfere. The old man frowned. He could feel that this newcomer's strength was at the 2nd level of the World King realm, a higher boundary than himself. Of course, he had 3 people on his side, so he wasn't too worried. What if I insist on interfering? However, the young man's voice also turned cold, carrying a sharp killing intent. That would mean offending our Nine Dragon City. Moreover, these people are only slaves. Why would your excellency provoke us for a few slaves? Most importantly, the person who wants to kill these slaves is called Shi Wenba. The old man's eyes flickered as he spoke. Haha, according to what you said, you should want to kill me more. Because compared to them, Shi Wenba wants to kill me more. The corners of the young man's mouth curled into a sneer, and he finally stopped. His words caused the elder's expression to change slightly. Who was this person? Why did Shi Wenba want to kill him the most? I don't want to know what you're talking about, but if you provoke us, you won't have a good time either. Soon the old man shook his head. At the same time, he secretly told the two people next to him to look at his eyes and prepare to attack. He didn't know who the intruder was, but the intruder had obviously disrupted what he wanted to do. However, how could he hide his intentions from the young man? The young man shook his head. He took a step forward and shot forward. He made his move. Boom. It was just a movement, but the entire mountain shook as if the power of a world had exploded. So fast. The elder's expression changed drastically. He didn't even notice the power of the world essence, but the young man had already appeared in front of him. At the same time, a large hand grabbed at him as if it was covering the sky. Bang! The terrifying thing was that the hand could actually break through the power of the world essence and smoothly grab the elder's neck. This unforeseen event caused the other two to be stunned. I wonder what the good fruit you're talking about is, the young man said indifferently as he lifted the elder with one hand. Senior Jian Bingyi was subdued in one move? The other two trembled because they could see that the gap between them and the young man was huge. Extremely huge. Even if the three of them joined forces, they still wouldn't be a match for the young man. Who are you? The elder said with a terrified expression. He knew that he had encountered an extremely terrifying expert. I'm the person Shi Wenba wants to kill the most. My name is Lin Ling. The young man's gaze met the elder's and said indifferently, causing the elder's heart to rumble. He naturally knew about Shi Wenba's background. He heard that Shi Wenba used to be a slave, but after he betrayed someone, he soared into the sky, and that person was Lin Ling. However, Shi Wenba didn't allow anyone to mention this shameful past. If anyone dared to mention it, they would be fined that day and die the next day without knowing why. Therefore, not many people knew about this, and the elder was one of them. Now, the fierce guy in front of him was Lin Ling? Wasn't this guy dead? The elder opened his mouth and wanted to say something. Bang! Lin Ling crushed his neck directly, then threw the corpse in his hand and looked at the remaining two. Where is Shi Wenba? His voice was calm, but it was as cold as the 9 hells. The two middle-aged men were so scared that they almost knelt on the ground. They didn't dare to look at Lin Ling at all. Dang! Lin Ling shouted in a low voice. It was like the King of Hell's soul-summoning order. Bang! One of the middle-aged men instantly died, suppressed to death by Lin Ling's massive soul force. To Little Peach and the others, these people were existences that they could only look up to. But to Lin Ling, they weren't even worth mentioning. He is in 9 Dragon City. He is about to become the son-in-law of the city lord. Moreover, Lord Shi Wenba wants to borrow the name of 9 Dragon City to enter the 3 great academies of Blue Province. The other man fell to his knees, constantly begging for mercy. This youth's methods were simple and direct. Even if he didn't want to speak, he had to. What is your city lord's strength and what powerhouses are nearby? Lin Ling asked without expression. Our city lord is at the 3rd stage of the World King realm and there are no powerhouses nearby. But I heard that Shi Wenba is someone from the 2 great heavens of Blue Province. Thus our city lord tried to recruit him. The man didn't dare to look at Lin Ling. He never thought that just a moment ago he could decide the fate of Little Peach and the others, but in the next moment his fate would be decided by someone else. The matters of life were truly filled with twists and turns. Destiny was the most mysterious of all. Hearing this, Lin Ling nodded. As he had guessed, after Shi Wenba revealed his formidable talent, many powerhouses began to try to recruit him. However, in Lin Ling's heart, Shi Wenba had just risen and now he was about to fall. Go die! Lin Ling nodded. Then he punched out, smashing that man to pieces. I've already told you why you want to kill me. The man cried out before he died, as if he hadn't died in peace. I didn't agree to not kill you, Lin Ling said without looking at him. These people wanted to kill Little Peach and the others. Thus they were Lin Ling's enemies. Then, Lin Ling turned and looked at Little Peach and the others. Big brother Lin Ling. Chapter 2350. 100 Worlds Martial Competition. It's good that you're all fine. Lin Ling looked at them. his expression not as cold as before. "Big brother Lin Ling, Shi Wenba wants to kill us. He's too vicious," one of them said angrily, his heart filled with unwillingness. "Haha, he's still in the mood to decide other people's lives? He's really free." Hearing this, Lin Ling's eyes turned cold. He hated ungrateful people the most. Therefore, he must kill Shi Wenba today. "Go to Nine Dragons City to kill Shi Wenba." The corners of his mouth twitched as he coldly spat out these words, causing Little Peach and the others to tremble subconsciously. Then, they were filled with anticipation. They wanted to know how Shi Wenba would react when he saw Lin Ling again. Nine Dragons City was not far from here. It wasn't a big city, but it was still bustling with people and bustling with noise. Many cultivators who had just arrived in the martial god realm chose Nine Dragons City as their first choice. Because there weren't many experts here, it was the best place for them to train for the first time. Today, Nine Dragons City was extremely lively because the City Lord had set up the 100 Worlds Martial Competition to make friends with the experts of the myriad worlds. The 100 Worlds Martial Competition, to put it bluntly, is the City Lord Su Jiolong trying to tell everyone that he has found the best son-in-law? It's Shi Wenba, right? This guy is really powerful. I heard that he came from the myriad worlds, but he relied on his own perseverance and sweat to finally gain a foothold in the martial god realm. I heard that many great powers have extended an olive branch to him. Yeah, City Lord Su Jiolong doesn't have a chance to enter the 3 great academies of the Azure Province. Therefore, he hopes that Shi Wenba can represent Nine Dragons City and enter the academy. The City Lord has a good plan. However, Shi Wenba won't lose out. At least he's married to a beautiful woman. I'm envious. In the streets and alleys, voices drifted out everywhere. As for the geniuses from the myriad worlds, they were envious. They hoped that one day they could be like Shi Wenba and gain a foothold in the martial god realm and enjoy worship. This Shi Wenba is really hypocritical. If it weren't for big brother Lin Ling, how could he be where he is today? He actually attributed everything to his perseverance and sweat. How ugly! At this moment, Lin Ling and the others had arrived at the city's massive gate. Hearing the various voices in the city, Little Peach could not help but mock. Hee hee, the higher you fly, the more painful it is to fall. Lin Ling stared into the distance, his eyes filled with coldness. Shi Wenba knew how to conduct himself. This was something that Lin Ling had already experienced. However, Shi Wenba was an ingrate. If he was weak, he would flatter him. If he was strong, those who had helped him would be bullied and even killed. Now that Shi Wenba has gained a firm foothold in the martial god realm, as his old friend, we have to support him no matter what. Following which, a sinister smile appeared on Lin Ling's face, causing Little Peach and the others to grow curious. "Follow me." Lin Ling suddenly remembered that when he went to kill an enemy in the past, he had prepared a coffin as a gift. Now that Shi Wenba was about to spread his wings and soar, how could Lin Ling not give him a gift? At this moment, in the Nine Dragons City, a large number of people had gathered, and in the center was a golden martial arts stage. That's right, it was a golden martial arts stage. Today was the day that the City Lord, Su Jiolong, was looking for a son-in-law, so how could he embarrass himself? Congratulations! Congratulations! Many seniors who knew Su Jiolong came and congratulated him. They knew that Su Jiolong had found a son-in-law. It was said that this son-in-law's talent was quite good, causing an outer court elder from the 3 great academies of Qingzhou to come. If this son-in-law entered the 3 great academies, then Su Jiolong's status would rise as well. Therefore, these experts also knew that today's 100 Dynasties martial competition was fake. The real purpose was to move that mysterious elder when Shi Wenba displayed his strength. Hee hee, it's my honor to have all of you here. At this moment, Su Jiolong cupped his hands and said to the crowd. Someone laughed and asked, "May I know who City Lord Su's son-in-law is?" With that said, many experts became curious. Su Jiolong smiled proudly and pointed to the other side. There was a thin and weak man sitting there. His eyes were slightly closed, and he didn't move or hear anything around him. He looked young, but he had his own arrogant demeanor. He is indeed a dragon among men. Those experts secretly said. They could sense that this young man wasn't simple. So handsome. Wow! As for Su Jiolong's daughter, she was also looking at that man with adoration. She had always thought that her husband was an outstanding talent who could command the wind and clouds, so she had been waiting. Now she had finally waited. She was very satisfied with that thin and weak young man. Is that Xueqi? He is simply the representative of the younger generation. I heard that his talent was very ordinary at the beginning, but he relied on his perseverance and fighting spirit to gradually make a name for himself. Yes, if only I could be as good as he is. Wow! Around the golden martial arts stage, the geniuses from various worlds also let out sounds of adoration, and some even shouted, Xueqi. These voices grew louder and louder like waves, causing the entire city to be excited. At this moment, the person who was sitting on the chair and enjoying the gazes of thousands of people was Xueqi. Although he was valued by Luo Shaci and the others, he obviously didn't want to be inferior to others, so he appeared here. In fact, he was a little excited because he was a slave in the past and had never enjoyed such treatment. And he liked this treatment very much, even indulging in it. Every man for himself. Sure enough, if you want to obtain something, you have to be a man and make a decision when necessary. Xueqi, I heard that you have a genius here, right? At this moment, an old man in a gorgeous robe appeared. He had the demeanor of an expert. His hands were behind his back, and the chest of his robe was embroidered with 4 large words, Heavenly Saint Academy. The crowd was in an uproar. They were people from the 3 great academies of Qing province. To them, these highly respected people were people they had to look up to, and they would always look up to. Lord Lon, I finally invited you here. Xueqi was overjoyed when he saw the old man and hurriedly bowed. Although the old man's strength was the same as his, the old man's status was much higher than his. No need to be so courteous, I'm here to see Xueqi. The old man smiled and waved his hand. Almost at the same time, Xueqi opened his eyes with a wisp of joy. The elder of Heavenly Saint Academy had actually come personally to test him. If the old man was satisfied, perhaps he, Xueqi, would be able to obtain a spot to participate in the Academy's assessment. Although a spot didn't mean that he would definitely become a member of the 3 great academies, it was enough. After all, precious spots weren't something that anyone could obtain. In fact, the old man had been invited by Xueqi, which was also the reason why Xueqi had married Xueqi's daughter. Greetings, senior. Xueqi was neither haughty nor humble as he bowed indifferently. Not bad, a very good unpolished jade. If you're polished, you'll definitely become something great. The old man smiled and seemed to be satisfied. Chapter 2351. Xueqi, how was the battle? Good, I await your good news. The old man quickly sat down. Seeing this, Xueqi became even more excited. He leaped up and landed on the dazzling golden martial platform. With one hand behind his back, he extended his other hand and made an inviting gesture to everyone. I am Xueqi. I am untalented, but I would like to experience the strength of the geniuses of all worlds, even the geniuses of Martial God World. His voice floated out, bold and confident. All around the golden martial stage, there was an uproar. It had to be said that at this moment, Xueqi was extremely confident. This caused the light around him to be extremely dazzling. Xueqi, I am untalented, but I would like to ask for guidance. Soon, a powerful genius leapt onto the golden martial stage. First level World King Realm? Not bad, to have such a boundary at such an age. Not bad at all. Xueqi faintly smiled, looking at this youth as if he were a senior apprentice brother. I thank Xueqi for the praise, but I will not hold back. The youth across from him seemed a bit excited because he had actually obtained Xueqi's praise. I hope so. Make your move. Xueqi faintly nodded. A calm aura spread out from him. His cultivation had actually reached the first level of the World King Realm. Compared to when he was at 8 God Heavenly Palace, his strength had risen by a great deal. This meant that his fortuitous encounters were extremely good. Excuse me. The youth attacked. His right hand drew a circle and then slammed out. Clang. The sound of metal colliding echoed out. The circle formed by world essence shot out countless arrows of light. If these arrows fell into the myriad worlds, they would be able to pierce through them. Not bad, but your speed is a bit slow. If you cultivate diligently, your strength can still increase. Looking at the dazzling arrows of light, Xueqi lightly nodded. Without any movement, His body swam out like a fish and he gently slammed out his palm. Pang! The youth was quickly defeated, but he wasn't injured. He said in adoration, "Admirable, I couldn't see through your attack at all." On the road of martial arts, increasing one's boundary doesn't mean they are strong. Their martial arts comprehension also increases. Your martial arts comprehension is still a bit weak, Xueqi said. His expression neither happy nor sad. I am sincerely convinced. The youth left the martial stage. As expected, cheers immediately erupted from all around. Even Lord Lon nodded his head in praise. All of this made Xueqi even happier. He wanted to better display himself. Next, he spoke again. Soon, some people leapt onto the golden martial platform. They were all first-level World King realm geniuses from various worlds. These geniuses had clearly cultivated in martial god world for a long time and their cultivation wasn't low. Bang bang bang. But what was the use? With his powerful talent, Xueqi was able to cut through mountains and fill seas. Defeat. That person lost again, but he wasn't injured. This showed just how terrifying Xueqi's martial arts realm was. Actually, the reason he was able to attain such a high level of attainment in the martial Dao was because of the cultivation techniques within the Tu Shi Tower. On the path of martial arts, you have to take one step at a time. You're too impatient, causing your foundation to be unstable. You should learn from me and cultivate steadily and solidly. As long as you're patient, sooner or later, you'll be able to accumulate enough strength to make a breakthrough. After defeating his opponent, Xueqi instructed again. As a result, he won beautifully. After all, it wasn't rare to defeat an opponent, but to be able to defeat an opponent without injuring them, and even convince them wholeheartedly at the same time, that was very difficult to accomplish. Bang bang bang. His opponents went on stage one after another, but all of them were defeated. Towards the end, Xueqi even challenged a second-level World King realm genius. Moreover, as the battle continued, he began to challenge old monsters. Although treasures are important, they cannot be the only thing that matters. Individual strength is the most important. My cultivation was obtained through hard work and there are no shortcuts to speak of. Thus, I hope that I can give you some help. Don't think of taking the unorthodox path or stealing the treasures of others to increase your strength. That's useless. Perseverance and diligence are the foundation of a martial artist. Every time Xueqi defeated an opponent, he would instruct them. This caused the people around the golden martial stage to worship him even more. As for Mr. Lon, he stroked his beard and nodded. Not only was this Xueqi's talent good, but his heart of martial arts was also extremely firm. It seemed that his cultivation had been obtained by taking one step at a time. Shameless. However, at this time, an untimely voice suddenly sounded out. Xueqi, can you be any more shameless? You said that the road of martial arts is one step at a time. May I ask if your cultivation was cultivated step by step? In the crowd, a young girl angrily shouted out. She couldn't bear it any longer. She was none other than Little Peach. Xueqi looked below the martial stage and was slightly surprised. However, he quickly calmed down and said indifferently, "So it's you. I know you like me and you must have me. Unfortunately, love can't be forced. As for my cultivation, it was definitely obtained through hard work and hard work. Do you think there are shortcuts to the road of martial arts?" His voice was interrogative, causing Little Peach's face to turn red with anger. She didn't think that Xueqi's shamelessness would surpass her imagination. This was because Xueqi's time fire was something that he had to kneel down and beg Lin Ling to obtain. But now, it was said that he had obtained it through hard work and hard work. Moreover, when Xueqi said those words, he actually had an expression as if they were a matter of course. She really didn't know if he had any sense of shame at all. Who do you think you are? You like Xueqi and he rejects you, so you want to smear his name? Xueqi's strength is clearly obtained through hard work and hard work. Do you think that a martial artist who relies on luck to increase their strength would have such deep martial arts comprehensions? Bitch! Those who didn't know the situation shouted angrily. Especially the opponents who had been defeated by Xueqi. They were the loudest at this moment. Xueqi, you! Little Peach was at a loss for words. She was so angry that her body was trembling. Xueqi looked at her indifferently. There was a cold light in the depths of his eyes. This former good friend of his had actually ruined his plans. It seemed that he had been too merciful. Such an enemy should have been obliterated. Fortunately, no one believed her at all. Little Peach. Leave. It will never be possible between you and me, Xueqi said as he shook his head. Xueqi is still the righteous one. If it were me, I would have already taught that girl a lesson. She simply doesn't know what's good for her. The crowd spoke up for Xueqi and worshipped him even more. As for Little Peach and the people around her, they were all like rats crossing the street, mocked by the crowd with disdain. Subconsciously, they looked at a man beside them. This man was wearing a black robe and a mask on his face. His eyes were mercilessly staring at the golden martial stage. Big brother Lin Ling. Little Peach and the others whispered, feeling extremely wronged. Ho ho, the higher you fly, the more painful it is to fall. Before, I let him shine so brightly because I wanted him to fall more painfully. Now, it's time for us to collect the interest. The masked man faintly smiled. He was Lin Ling. Lin Ling hadn't exposed his identity because if he did, it wouldn't be fun. Xueqi, how about this battle? Lin Ling finally spoke. As these words fell, the golden martial stage fell silent. Even now, there was still someone who dared to challenge Xueqi? This person was simply overestimating himself. Xueqi's strength was already enough to fight a second-stage world king. Which ordinary person could be his match? Xueqi's eyes flashed. The masked man gave him a familiar feeling, but he was sure that he didn't know who he was. He didn't think too much about it. After defeating that youth, Lord Lan would probably give him a spot. As you wish. Xueqi shrugged his shoulders. Xiao. At almost the same time, a black shadow shot out and crashed into the golden martial stage. As everyone looked over, their complexions changed. Chapter 2352. The loser enters the coffin. Pa! At this moment, the sound of footsteps echoed out. Lin Ling walked towards the golden martial stage at a steady pace. At the same time, his deep voice floated out. Loser, how about you enter the coffin? Go. As his voice fell, the entire city fell silent. Enter the coffin? Xueqi frowned. Today was his most dazzling moment. As long as he waited a little longer, he would be able to obtain a spot into the 3 great academies. However, this person actually wanted to give him a coffin. Was this person trying to humiliate him in front of Lord Lan? You're courting death. Anger. Soon, angry shouts came from all around. Even Su Jiolong's eyes flashed with a cold light. Today was the 100 Realms martial meeting, but the truth was that the martial stage belonged to his son-in-law. Yet, this person dared to cause trouble. This was the same as ruining his reputation. You don't know what's good for you. At this time, a black figure appeared on the martial stage like a bolt of lightning. This was an old man with long silver hair. He wore brown robes and 3 banners were placed on his back. A cold wind blew around him. The king of the Water world. The people below shouted out. This person was the ruler of a world. Although this old man's hometown was the same as Lin Ling's hometown and wasn't considered too strong to be able to become the ruler of a world, there was no need to doubt his strength. You're wearing a mask and sneaking around. You don't look like a good person. Today is the day of the 100 Realms exchange, so why have you come here to cause trouble? The old man pointed at Lin Ling and reprimanded him, as if Lin Ling were his disciple. In truth, his plan was well thought out. After all, powerhouses were as common as clouds in the martial god world. If one had a backer, they could walk far. Now, Xueqi had a chance to enter the 3 great academies and was even being recruited by 2 great commanderies. Thus, if he helped, he could obtain Xueqi's favor. I came to the martial stage to fight, so why have you come here to cause trouble? Lin Ling looked at the old man. The old man was at the first level of the World King realm, but a world had been born within him. In addition, the banner behind him was a treasure. No wonder he was so confident. A treasure could increase one's world essence. Some could increase it by 10%, some by 20%, and once it reached 100%, it was the power of a world. At the first level of the World King realm, one had the strength of a world. If one added on a good weapon and their world essence increased by 10%, their strength would naturally be even greater. Shameless boasting. This old man sees that you are young, so I'm only giving you some advice. Don't be too arrogant, Otherwise, the old man was enraged. Although Lin Ling was a second-level world king, he still had confidence in himself. After all, Lin Ling's Dantian hadn't given birth to the power of two worlds, so what did Lin Ling have to fear? Otherwise what? Lin Ling asked. Otherwise, don't blame me for killing you. The old man's voice became cold as he looked at Su Jiolong. He was secretly satisfied. City Lord Su Jiolong should owe him a favor. Then let me remind you that you must know your place. The matters of others have nothing to do with you. Otherwise, don't blame me for causing misery and suffering. Lin Ling smiled. His smile was extremely cold. He didn't waste any more words. He took a step forward and shot toward the old man. You are courting death. The old man didn't think that Lin Ling would dare to take the initiative to attack. No matter how it was said, he was still the master of a world. Shi Wenbo stood where he was, unmoving. He was curious about this youth's strength. Point ceiling heavy soul banner. The old man roared, erupting with his full strength. The three banners behind him fluttered out, forming countless strands of the power of world essence. The entire golden martial stage was covered by him. In his opinion, this arrogant youth wouldn't be able to move even a single step. It's actually the power of worlds. Lin Ling still rushed forwards, his eyes filled with disdain. This banner was forged from the power of a world. It had to be known that there were connections between the myriad worlds, just like the threads of a broken lotus root. These threads were this power. Chi chi chi. An invisible strength bound Lin Ling, wanting to stop Lin Ling's advance. Suddenly, Lin Ling's movements paused, like a moth trapped in a spider's web. Seeing this, the old man smiled. He already knew that Lin Ling was a young man. Although his boundary was good, his martial arts experience was still lacking. Thus, the old man decided to attack. You're smiling too early. However, just as his smile appeared, a cold and indifferent voice floated into his ears. Pang pang pang. The invisible threads that bound Lin Ling instantly broke apart. How is this possible? The old man's pupils widened. His point-ceiling heavy soul banner specifically sealed away a martial artist's acupoints. He had captured countless second-level world king powerhouses, but now, this youth hadn't erupted with the power of world essence but had still managed to break free from his threads of world essence. How could he know just how formidable Lin Ling's mortal body was? His strength had reached over 5,000. Moreover, Lin Ling's acupoints were like molten iron. How could they be easily sealed away? Pang! As the old man was surprised, Lin Ling's fist arrived. Lin Ling had put away his sword, but his fist was his sword, crushing everything in its path. Ka ka ka! With a single punch, it was as if he could dominate the world. The three banners instantly broke apart. I don't care about this anymore. The old man finally realized just how terrifying Lin Ling was. He began to retreat. You don't care, but I want to care about you. Lin Ling's momentum was unstoppable. His fist punched out, seeming as if it carried the world with it as it crashed into the old man. You want to ignore me with just a few words? If today's Lin Ling was weaker than this old man and Lin Ling said he didn't care, would this old man let him go? This was clearly impossible. Am I going to die here? The old man's pupils gradually widened. He looked towards the distant Su Jiolong, hoping that Su Jiolong would help him. However, he was disappointed. In the distance, Su Jiolong wasn't even looking at him. Instead, he was staring at Lin Ling. It was clear that he wanted the city lord to owe him a favor. But if he failed, he would die here forever. Boom! After killing the old man with a single punch, Lin Ling calmly stood there. That black robe caused the entire city to fall silent. So powerful! Many people secretly exclaimed. Because the entire process was too direct and efficient. As for Shi Wenbo, he narrowed his eyes. Through the previous battle, he seemed to have seen through the demon-masked youth's strength. This youth probably didn't have the power of two worlds and was drawing on the power of 10,000 worlds. Otherwise, when facing the old man's attack, he would have already erupted with all his world essence. And such strength, Shi Wenbo wasn't afraid. Little friend, let me give you a piece of advice. Don't be too arrogant. Shi Wenbo spoke. His tone was calm, as if he was giving advice to Lin Ling like a senior. Hearing this, Lin Ling laughed. The more he looked at Shi Wenbo, the more disgusted he felt. This fellow had always been pretending, deceiving others. The current me can't be considered very arrogant, right? It's just a... Lin Ling directly retorted. His words caused many people to suck in a breath of cold air. They all felt that Lin Ling was too arrogant, but who would have known that Lin Ling felt that the previous arrogance was just a... In that case, if Lin Ling was truly arrogant, what kind of cultivation realm would that be? What arrogance? A moment later, angry shouts rang out one after another. It was because Shi Wenba was deeply righteous. He wouldn't be angered even if others provoked him, but that demon-masked youth was too arrogant. He delivered a coffin and casually killed people. He was simply from hell. However, Lin Ling acted as if he didn't hear anything. He indifferently said, Shi Wenba, if you want to be favored by Lord Lan, you have to display even greater strength. So, it seems like you have no choice but to refuse. Yes. Chapter 2353. Give you a 10-move handicap. Shi Wenba's complexion was ugly but he still laughed. Haha, it seems that you don't like me at all. But as you wish. Shi Wenba, had been waiting for this moment for a long time. He absolutely couldn't miss this chance. Of course, the most important thing was that he had absolute confidence in himself. You've fought so many battles, so I'll give you a 10-move handicap. Lin Ling knew that Shi Wenba didn't fear this battle. Moreover, he could see that Shi Wenba's cultivation had reached the first level of the World King realm and he had cultivated the Buddha lamp burning art left behind by Tushi Tower. This was a fire attribute cultivation method that was very suitable for him, and also had the effect of rapidly increasing his cultivation. However, the later stages this cultivation method was, the more difficult it would be and the weaker it would be. It was because of this that Lin Ling disdained this cultivation method when he was in Tushi Tower. Give me a 10-move handicap? Unsurprisingly, Lin Ling's words made Shi Wenba a little stunned. Of course, the crowd was also the same. After all, Shi Wenba had defeated many second-level World King realm martial artists before, so they didn't know where Lin Ling's confidence came from. Didn't you see the previous battles? Shi Wenba shook his head. I did. You're only a... Lin Ling smiled as he replied. Then I'll do as you wish. Shi Wenba sighed, as if he regretted Lin Ling's frivolous attitude. But far away from the golden martial platform, Lord Lan frowned. He knew that Shi Wenba could fight a second-level World King, but that didn't mean he was invincible in this realm. First, the powerhouses that Shi Wenba fought before didn't have high talent. They only had a first-grade mystic body. Second, if they cultivated a middle-grade second-grade martial art, Shi Wenba wouldn't have been able to win. However, that youth's talent didn't seem too high. As for his martial arts comprehension, he was definitely inferior to Shi Wenba. Thus, he didn't know how that youth would fight. Give him a 10-move handicap? What a joke. It was Shi Wenba who gave him a handicap. Is he an idiot? Does he think he can suppress Shi Wenba just because his boundary is high? He will know that those who can enter the 3 great academies of Azure Province aren't pushovers. Many people sneered, wanting to see Lin Ling in a sorry state. Shi Wenba stared at Lin Ling indifferently as if he wanted to see through Lin Ling. However, he couldn't see through anything. In the end, he was sure that he didn't know the other party. Sorry for the offense. He said this hypocritically, but he had already displayed his martial arts. A dazzling golden light appeared on the golden martial stage. 18 Buddha palms. It was a low second-grade origin boundary martial art. According to legend, this set of martial arts was comprehended by a Buddhist martial artist after 10,000 years in the myriad worlds. As for its origin, Shi Wenba had obtained it from the Tushi Tower. Because he had the assistance of the flames of time, this allowed him to gain an initial understanding of the might of this martial art. A terrifying thing happened. 18 ancient Buddhas appeared on the golden martial platform, as if they were the masters of a realm. 18 palms fiercely struck out. Amazing! Looking at this magnificent scene, many people held their breaths. Bang bang bang! In the next moment, the Buddha's palms suppressed the world. On the martial stage, Lin Ling's body was like a candle in the wind, engulfed by the energy storm. He lost. Seeing this, Lord Lan immediately shook his head. Although there was a gap between the two of them, martial arts could make up for everything. As for Shi Wenba, he smiled, an extremely confident smile. First move. However, in the midst of the tumbling waves, Lin Ling's voice floated out, causing the surroundings of the martial stage to instantly fall silent. They saw that in the storm formed by the origin boundary, the ghost-masked youth was still standing there. He seemed to be in a sorry state, but at least he had not lost. You shouldn't have let me use my first move. Second move. Second move. Shi Wenba's eyes flickered. He did not get angry and pointed out a finger. Weeping golden finger. This finger could condense the power of a realm in the Dantian and attack the enemy, breaking through a realm. In his opinion, with the first move, the other party was already in such a sorry state. The next move was bound to be defeated. I know you want to defeat me and then replace me to enter the 3 great academies of Qingzhou. However, on the path of martial arts, one has to have a steady state of mind. After the finger, Shi Wenba said indifferently, as if he was a senior who had comprehended martial arts for many years. Clang! At the same time, the sound of metal colliding rang out. Many people saw that the ghost-masked youth was pushed back by the finger attack. This time, he was defeated. This thought arose in the hearts of the crowd. Hee, your mouth is quite powerful. However, the path of martial arts does not rely on your mouth. However, Lin Ling's voice still floated out. In the smoke. His figure was still faintly discernible. He had not lost yet. At this moment, Shi Wenba's pupils constricted. Humiliation. This was a huge humiliation. After all, his opponent only blocked and did not attack. If he still could not win, then he would be too ashamed to face others today. You should have reached your limit. You will definitely lose in the third move. Shi Wenba's voice was a little angry. Perhaps. Lin Ling did not comment. Third move. Shi Wenba knew that he could not lose face anymore. He had to defeat his opponent and seize the glory. Combat Demon Explosion. There was an explosive sound, and the void around Shi Wenba's body continued to explode. This was a move that combined defense and attack. Seeing this scene, many people clenched their fists. It had to be said that Shi Wenba knew a lot of martial arts. Following that, Shi Wenba also began to fight in close combat. His expression was calm but every move was fatal. Lin Ling had a sneer on his face. In fact, if he wanted to defeat Shi Wenba, one move would be enough. However, he did not. He was slowly trampling on Shi Wenba's dignity. As for the combat demon explosion, Lin Ling was more familiar with this move than Shi Wenba. He easily broke it. Fourth move. Fifth move. As time passed, the surroundings of the gold martial platform began to go into an uproar. Because every time the mysterious youth looked like he was about to lose, he would not lose. And Shi Wenba, who was the focus of their attention, had failed time and time again. This scene was completely different from what they had imagined. How could this be? At this moment, Shi Wenba was furious. He felt that the ghost-masked youth's defense was too strong, breaking his moves every time. Most importantly, he sensed that the surrounding people were looking at him with ridicule. Previously, he was so proud that he was worshipped by tens of thousands of people. Now, he was unable to defeat him after a long battle. This was a huge insult. Eighth move, lose for me. You're thinking too well. The distance to the 10th move was getting closer and closer. Shi Wenba became increasingly anxious. If he failed, then Lord Lan would definitely be disappointed. It would be difficult for him to spread his wings and soar high today. Who was this ghost-masked youth? How hateful. Earth explosion. Heaven shaking. For the 10th move, Shi Wenba used Lin Ling's martial arts. That martial art was taught to him by Lin Ling when the two of them were traveling in the desert. However, at that time, Shi Wenba's realm was not high and he could not cultivate it. But now, he had succeeded in the initial stage. He believed that this move would definitely be able to kill the ghost-masked youth without anyone noticing. At this moment, the martial platform seemed to have quieted down. A demonic aura filled the air, making it unknown when a fatal attack would erupt. Powerful. Lord Lan suddenly stood up and clapped his hands. He could see that Shi Wenba had suppressed his realm essence underground and was using it to attack the ghost-masked youth. And this move was very difficult to defend against. Unless one was a World King realm genius, they would all die with hatred. Chapter 2354. Killing Shi Wenbo. At this time, Shi Wenbo had already floated backwards. His hands were held behind his back, his confidence restored. Moreover, he walked down the golden martial stage. "You've lost. What a pity. You didn't make me use my true trump card." These words floated out from his mouth, confident and calm. It was clear that he didn't think that the demon-masked youth would be able to block his move. After all, this move was terrifying. He had once seen Lin Ling easily kill a first-level World King Realm powerhouse. But if he knew that this youth in front of him was the one who had taught him that move, then he would have absolutely lost all confidence in himself. Bang! At nearly the same time, a terrifying beam of essence light shot into the skies. This attack was unpredictable, able to kill any first-level World King Realm martial artist. In order to kill the demon-masked youth, Shi Wenbo had even secretly activated a wisp of the space-time flame within. What kind of attack is this? As expected, after the crowd discovered that terrifying beam of light, they were all shocked. They simply hadn't sensed this attack before. This is a true genius. His eyebrows move slightly and he easily defeats his enemy. What an elegant demeanor. Many people spoke out in praise after being surprised. Their eyes turned, wanting to see the demon-masked youth's distressed appearance. But in the next moment, all of their jaws dropped. This was because the demon-masked youth was still standing there, like an immovable king. He hadn't been defeated. The 10th move had passed and the demon-masked youth was still standing there, like a demon. You're leaving like this?" At the same time, Lin Ling's voice floated out. It was clear that to use Lin Ling's earth-shattering heavens to attack Lin Ling was simply seeking death. To play with earth-shattering heavens, Lin Ling was everyone's ancestor. At this time, Shi Wenbo proudly walked down the martial stage. But just as he was about to step out, his footsteps came to a halt. His complexion was fierce. He was so angry that his body began to tremble. Before, just how glorious was he? Before his enemy was defeated, he had proudly left the martial stage. But now, the scene in front of him told him that this was nothing but mockery. "Your skin is really thick. I haven't been defeated and you want to leave? Do you really think you're invincible?" Lin Ling indifferently spat out a sentence. His words were like rubbing salt into a wound, causing Shi Wenbo's body to tremble even more violently. As for the crowd, they found it difficult to express the shock in their hearts with words. Some people looked at Shi Wenbo and almost wanted to laugh out loud. They also thought that Shi Wenbo was a disgrace. Even Lord Lon sat back down with a look of disappointment on his face. To Shi Wenbo, this expression was undoubtedly worse than killing him. He finally turned around with a ferocious look on his face. "You! Enough! I'm enough? I'll give you a handicap of 10 moves, and you can't even defeat me. I don't understand how you're qualified to enter the 3 great academies of Qing province." Lin Ling smiled and said in a cold voice, "Next, can we be considered to have a fair fight? If you think that you're at a disadvantage because my cultivation level is higher, then I'll give you another 10 moves." Boom. As soon as these words were spoken, it was as if a bomb had been thrown into the surroundings of the martial platform. How long was the ghost-masked youth going to humiliate Shi Wenbo? "There's no need for that. Go all out and let me see what you're capable of," Shi Wenbo angrily roared. He could no longer suppress his anger. He flew into a rage out of humiliation. Good, this is too good." In the distance, Little Peach and the others excitedly smiled. The higher Shi Wenbo flew, the more painful it would be for him to fall. They wanted to see just how thick Shi Wenbo's skin was. "As you wish." Lin Ling nodded. "But, let me remind you, once I attack, it will be difficult for you to block me." "Insolence!" Shi Wenbo roared out once more. Did this ghost-masked youth think he was trash? "You'll find out soon enough." Lin Ling disdained to speak further. He directly closed in on Shi Wenbo. "You seem to know Buddhist martial arts. Then, do you know my martial arts, the myriad tribulation Arhat fist?" Wang wang wang. His fist punched out. The sound of Buddhist scriptures floated outwards, divine and dignified. The strength of 2 worlds was suppressed above his fist, terrifying to the extreme. Although you are at the 2nd level of the World King Realm, if you aren't familiar with controlling your strength then you cannot win. Shi Wenbo's eyes flashed with madness. His fists and palms danced, not retreating but advancing. Bang! Two fists collided. A deafening sound rang out. In the next moment, Shi Wenba was sent flying backwards. His face was filled with horror because he discovered that his opponent's world essence was extremely stable. It didn't seem like a martial artist who had just stepped into the second level of the World King realm. Your martial arts are barely acceptable, but your control over your world essence isn't concentrated enough. It's scattered too much. You need to bitterly cultivate it. Before Shi Wenba landed on the ground, Lin Ling chased after him. At the same time, his voice also floated out. He was actually giving pointers to Shi Wenba. Pang! He leapt up. His foot smashed down like an axe, smashing Shi Wenba into the golden martial platform. Rumble, rumble, rumble. The sound was deafening. Of course, what was even more shocking was that the ghost-masked youth was actually giving pointers to Shi Wenba. It had to be known that when Shi Wenba challenged the crowd of heroes, he was the one giving pointers. But now, he was the one being given pointers. This was undoubtedly a mockery. The ghost-masked youth was clearly slapping Shi Wenba's face. Moreover, he was slapping Shi Wenba's face. Boom! After a breath, on the golden martial platform, Shi Wenba leapt up from the ground. At this moment, his long hair was disheveled and his face was filled with killing intent. However, just as he leapt up, a figure appeared in front of him. Above the pitch-black ghost mask, a pair of cold eyes stared at him as if the king of hell was here to collect debts. This made Shi Wenba's heart tremble subconsciously. That pair of eyes was so cold. Most importantly, it gave him a familiar feeling. On the path of martial arts, you have to take one step at a time. You're too anxious, causing your foundation to be unstable. You should learn from me and cultivate steadily and solidly. As long as you're patient, sooner or later, you'll be able to accumulate enough strength. Lin Ling spat out a sentence. His right arm danced like a windmill. In the next moment, a dazzling punch was thrown out. With his current strength and the godly demon body, Shi Wenba was like a sandbag to him. Pang! Shi Wenba, who had just leapt up, was smashed into the ground again. Pang pang pang. Then, a dazzling battle appeared. Shi Wenba was completely abused. He was indeed like a sandbag. Although treasures are important, they can't be the only thing. Individual strength is the most important. My cultivation was obtained through hard work. There are no shortcuts, so I hope I can give you some help. Don't think about taking the unorthodox path or robbing other people's treasures to increase your strength. It's useless. Perseverance and diligence are the foundation of a martial artist. Most importantly, angry shouts could be heard from time to time. These words were said by Shi Wenba when he defeated his opponent. However, at this moment, they came from the ghost-masked youth's mouth. Pointers! Now the ghost-masked youth was giving Shi Wenba even more pointers. Looking at the crazy battle that was like a thunderbolt, everyone around the martial platform was dumbfounded. Was this still the most dazzling Shi Wenba today? Chapter 2355. The Progenitor of Fire, the Spacetime Fire. Sir Lon frowned, and the disappointment on his face deepened. Su Jiolong, you said that your son-in-law is a rare genius, and invited me to assess his strength. But what I see now is that he's being completely thrashed. Hearing this, Su Jiolong was speechless. As for Shi Wenba, he was completely stunned. His mind was only filled with humiliation. A heavy humiliation. Previously, he flew very high like a comet. But now, he fell from the sky and the fall was very painful. The surrounding admiring gazes were probably only left with mockery. As for the person who attracted the most attention, it was undoubtedly the mysterious ghost-masked youth. At this moment, voices rang out quietly. Many people began to turn towards the ghost-masked youth. They were cheering for the ghost-masked youth. In the world of martial arts, strength always proved everything. You've gone too far. After an unknown period of time, Shi Wenba finally erupted with a terrifying aura. Multicolored flames blossomed wildly at this moment. The spacetime fire. Crackle. On the golden martial stage, firecrackers sounded. The void was burning and an ancient flame aura filled the air. There were many fire attribute martial artists around the martial stage. At this moment, the flames in their dantian could not control themselves and broke out of their bodies. Those flames seemed to have met the progenitor of fire. The space-time fire. Lord Lan stood up subconsciously. He heard from Su Jiolong that Shi Wenba had a powerful talent. Therefore, he came because of his reputation. Today, he saw that it was indeed extraordinary. This flame has not yet grown, but it gives me an extraordinary feeling. If it fully matures, I'm afraid it can reach the talent of awakening the divine body. Lord Lan's voice was a little nervous. If he recommended Shi Wenba to the academy, then he would have done a great service. Good. Beside him, Su Jiolong shouted excitedly. There was a light at the end of the tunnel. His son-in-law was in dire straits, but now he had finally turned the tables. He could not help but look at Lord Lan. Seeing the old man's face full of joy, he also smiled. Good son-in-law, your time has come. Let everyone see your strength. Su Jiolong picked up his wine cup and drank, waiting for the good news. What kind of flame is that? Could it be a 5th-rank Xian body? I'm afraid he has already reached the top level of the profound body. He is actually only one step away from awakening the divine body. Is this Shi Wenba's talent? He has finally used his strongest trump card. The voices around the martial platform floated up like waves. Shi Wenba indifferently stood there. His entire body was covered in flames, making him look like a god of fire. His cold eyes stared at Lin Ling. Did I surprise you? Sorry, I made you happy for nothing. Today's martial platform is mine. No one can snatch it from me. He walked forward step by step. His expression was calm, but the flames in his heart were burning. He was boiling. He thought back to the time when he was in the myriad realms, when he had just arrived at the martial god realm. He thought back to his downfall, and he thought back to the sacrifices he had made. Today, he wanted everyone to know that he, Shi Wenba, had risen. Pah! He stretched out his right hand, and the multicolored flames danced. It was a ghastly sight. Boom! The entire golden martial platform started burning at this moment. Golden liquid. With one strike, I will defeat you. A fierce roar rang out. It was as if a shooting star had passed over the martial platform. Wherever it passed, the space was burned, and a dazzling tail was drawn out. Crackle! Time seemed to be burned, and all the energy of heaven and earth was suppressed in the flames. The fire of time and space was a flame that could burn space and time. Dang! Shi Wenba's eyes turned red. He roared, wanting to vent everything. Boom! But in his eyes, the ghost-masked youth did not move at all, as if he did not know how powerful his flames were. In Shi Wenba's eyes, perhaps the youth had been scared silly. No matter how powerful your martial arts are, no matter how high your realm is, with a flame in my hand, no one can defeat me. He held the fire of time in his hand, and as if a taboo had been opened, he heavily slammed it on Lin Ling's chest. Boom! A deafening sound rang out. The power of the flame destroyed everything in its path. The entire golden martial platform shattered, and everything was burned. Crackle! The warriors who were closer to the martial platform were touched by a wisp of flame, and they were directly burned into nothingness. Any realm essence under the flame would be burned. The fire ancestor was so terrifying. What a terrifying talent. Moreover, that talent can still grow. Lord Lan could not help but stand up. His face was flushed red from excitement. As for Su Jiolong, who was beside him, he was calmly drinking wine, but it was obvious that his hand holding the wine cup was somewhat excited. Crackle! The flames were still burning, causing Nine Dragon City to be as hot as a volcano. As time passed, the crowd's eyes were glued to the center. At this moment, they wanted to see Shi Wenba's power. In fact, Shi Wenba was indeed emitting a dazzling light. His body was still burning with flames. He stretched out his hand, and his face was filled with joy. He almost roared at the sky. However, the next sentence caused him to fall from heaven to hell again. How pitiful! The last flame was only able to injure me a little. I really don't understand how a piece of trash like you is qualified to enter the 3 great academies. His voice drifted out like a gust of wind, causing the previously shocked crowd to widen their eyes. Crackle! At the center, the colorful flame seemed to recede, and then a slender figure appeared. It was the demon-masked youth. He was not dead. Bang! The wine cup in Su Jiolong's hand was subconsciously crushed by him. The wine flowed all over his hand, But he did not feel it. How could this be? He only had this one sentence in his mind. As for Lord Lon, who was beside him, his expression was extremely interesting. Previously, Shi Wenba's shocking talent had surprised him, but now he realized that what really surprised him was the demon-masked youth. If Shi Wenba had a spot in the 3 great academies, then it was deserved, but what about the youth? Who was stronger, who was weaker? It was clear at a glance now. Is this all you've got? You think you've dealt me a fatal blow? You think you've finally gained Lord Lan's approval after defeating me? You're proud, you're proud. You've finally broken out of your cocoon and become a butterfly. However, don't you think you're too optimistic? Trash. Lin Ling stared at Shi Wenba indifferently and softly spat out a sentence. Shi Wenba stood there trembling, as if he could not believe what was happening before his eyes. You said that one must take one step at a time on the path of martial arts. However, ask yourself, if you've taken one step at a time, where did your powerful talent come from? Lin Ling took a step forward and gently slapped out his palm. Seeing this, Shi Wenba immediately roared. He gathered all the remaining space-time flames and heavily clashed with Lin Ling's palm. I don't believe it. Go to hell. Boom. The 2 palms collided, and flames sputtered everywhere. Chapter 2356. You're not even a cat. That's right, it was absorbed. Previously, the masked youth was able to block the space-time fire because he had absorbed all of the space-time fire. What was this guy's background? Bang! Almost at the next moment, Shi Wenba's body flew backward and smashed into the ground, spitting out blood. Facing Lin Ling, he couldn't withstand a single blow. He struggled to get up. His eyes were bloodshot and he was about to go crazy. Because his strongest trump card was actually completely useless against the ghost-masked young man. What was laughable was that he thought everything was over. Lin Ling sneered and took a step forward. He arrived in front of Shi Wenba and looked down at him. Then, he stepped on Shi Wenba, who had just gotten up. Where's your pride? Shi Wenba. Shi Wenba struggled to stand up, but he couldn't block the foot behind him. He was trampled to the ground like a dog. Where's your pride, Shi Wenba? Lin Ling said again. In the past, because he sympathized with Shi Wenba, he tried his best to help him and seize the space-time fire for him. Unfortunately, Shi Wenba shouldn't be jealous of him because he was courting death. Lin Ling disliked ungrateful people the most. His principle in this life was to repay the kindness of a drop of water with a gushing spring. He had always been so. Ah! Shi Wenba lay on the ground and let out a ferocious roar. He had lost his mind. He flew very high and thought that he would shine brightly. He thought that he would bring glory to his ancestors, but Lin Ling made him return to reality. That's enough. What hatred does he have with you? Why did you trample on him like this? Don't you think it's too much? Su Jiolong's angry roar came from afar. He was completely furious. Today, he had done his best to support his son-in-law and let the entire city watch, but this was the result. Therefore, his hatred for the masked youth was beyond imagination. He only has himself to blame. Lin Ling slowly turned around and looked at Su Jiolong indifferently. Nonsense. Su Jiolong's face was filled with murderous intent. I think you're jealous of his talent, so you want to suppress him. Your mind is already twisted. Haha, just because I ruined your son-in-law's future, you're wrongly accusing me? Hearing this, Lin Ling laughed arrogantly. His black robe fluttered in the wind, and his domineering aura seemed to not even be afraid of the city lord. Once upon a time, there was a person who came from myriad worlds. Because he was too insignificant and had seen too many experts, he wasn't willing to let others control his life. Thus, he secretly worked hard and left a kind and pure impression among the geniuses. He was happy to help others, but he was only using them. Of course, not everyone saw through him. Others were deceived by him because of his hypocritical facade. They did everything they could to help him and allowed him to obtain a powerful talent. However, he framed his benefactor at the crucial moment. What's even more ironic is that he told everyone that his current achievements were obtained through his own hard work. Ridiculous! Ridiculous! Without the help of others, where would he be today? He was using his friends, including you, the city lord, Su Jiolong. Lin Ling's voice was like thunder, clearly falling into everyone's ears. I've heard of this rumor. Is it true? Many people's eyes flickered. You're slandering me. Dang. Su Jiolong naturally knew that this news was true, so he directly attacked. He wanted to kill Lin Ling, because Lin Ling had killed all of his hope. Boom. 9 dragons piercing the clouds. 9 golden dragons glowing with golden light swept toward Lin Ling as if they were swallowing the clouds and riding the mist. Su Jiolong, you! Beside him, Lord Lon exclaimed. He never thought that Su Jiolong would attack. In fact, after hearing Lin Ling's words, he also felt that Shi Wenba was too ugly. Ho ho, it seems that I've ruined your plans, so you want to silence me. However, as Lin Ling looked at those 9 terrifying dragons roaring towards him, his complexion didn't change at all. He stretched out his right hand and the power of the world essence in his 2 dantians crazily gushed out. 2 dantians, this was the power of 4 worlds. This was equal to a 4th level world king. Bang! The power of world essence instantly erupted. He didn't need any martial arts, he just relied on brute strength to suppress. This is the power of world essence. Lord Lon wanted to help, but just as he moved, his complexion changed. Screw off! Rumble, rumble, rumble. Following Lin Ling's furious roar, the wind swirled and the clouds surged in midair. The 9 huge golden dragons were completely destroyed. City Lord Su Jiolong was only at the 3rd level World King realm. To the current Lin Ling, he simply wasn't enough. Dang dang dang. Su Jiolong crazily retreated, his face paling. When he finally stopped, he spat out a mouthful of blood. Who are you? He never imagined that a 2nd level World King Jr. would actually be able to wound him. Lin Ling didn't even glance at him, disdaining to speak. Seeing this, the entire city fell silent. Even the city lord wasn't this youth's match. Just who was this youth? As for Shi Wenba, he was still lying on the ground, his face pale. Before this, he had been hoping that the city lord would kill this youth for him and wash away his shame. However, his dreams had come to naught. Who are you? Why would you harm me like this? I came from 10,000 worlds and have the strength I have today. Do you think it's easy? I just don't want to be someone else's slave anymore. I just want to prove myself. Why are you suppressing me? Shi Wenba's voice was filled with pain. His long hair was a mess and his body shivered. Ho ho, you've started to deceive others' sympathy again. You want to use pity to make others think I'm suppressing you? Lin Ling stared at Shi Wenba and shook his head. I really don't know you. Shi Wenba roared. Is that so? Then do you remember how you treated your benefactor not long ago? Lin Ling placed his hand on the mask. His words stunned Shi Wenba. At this moment, he thought of many people, because in the 8 gods' heavenly palace, there were many people who had helped him. However, the one he owed the most was still that mysterious youth. However, wasn't that youth dead? Impossible, all of this must be fake. Subconsciously, his pupils stared at Lin Ling. Lin Ling slowly took off his mask, revealing a handsome and cold face. Lin Ling. Shi Wenba's heart exploded. It really was Lin Ling. At this moment, he was afraid. No wonder all the martial arts he knew were useless. It was Lin Ling. In fact, in his heart, Lin Ling could be considered half his master. You once said that a mountain cannot hide 2 tigers. At that time, I said that you are not a tiger in my heart, not even a cat. You think too highly of yourself. If I can nurture you, I can naturally destroy you easily. Lin Ling looked down at Shi Wenba. His voice was cold, causing Shi Wenba's body to tremble even more. He muttered, What do you mean? Chapter 2357. One Sword Kill Boom. These words made Shi Wenba's heart almost jump out. He seemed to understand something. You mean, even if I didn't frame you, you wouldn't harm me, and you wouldn't be jealous that I got the space-time flame. You're right. In fact, space-time might be very precious to you, but to me, it's just that. Lin Ling stretched out his right hand, and colorful flames instantly appeared, causing Shi Wenba's face to turn as pale as paper. He thought that he had soared into the sky, but in Lin Ling's hands, he couldn't escape. I'm sorry, Lin Ling. I was wrong. Please spare my life. Shi Wenbo regretted it. He climbed up and quickly kowtowed. His miserable appearance made many people know that Lin Ling seemed to be the mysterious expert who nurtured Shi Wenbo. The funny thing was that Shi Wenbo actually had the nerve to say that the path of martial arts was one step at a time, and he obviously didn't grow up one step at a time. Are you begging me? But, do you see that coffin? Lin Ling stared at Shi Wenbo from the corner of his eyes. I see it, I see it. I was blinded for a moment. Please give me another chance. People will always make mistakes. Do I have to pay a heavy price for one mistake? Shi Wenbo looked at Lin Ling in fear, which made Lin Ling smile. In fact, from my point of view, I really don't care about your life or death. As soon as he said this, Shi Wenbo's eyes lit up. Thank you, brother Lin Ling. You're a magnanimous person. But, however, Lin Ling's voice sounded again, and it was cold. Lu Yi's death made me very unhappy. Although he wasn't a good person, at least he dared to take responsibility for his actions. However, he died in your hands. Both of you came from the myriad of worlds. He was working hard to become stronger, and so were you. However, he was obviously more magnanimous than you. After saying this, Lin Ling's arm grabbed out. No. Shi Wenbo's eyes were wet. If time could flow, he would definitely not make a move against Lin Ling. Because the moment he made a move, he would be consigned to eternal damnation. And if he didn't make a move, Lin Ling would instead nurture him. He shouldn't have, he really shouldn't have. It could only be said that he had miscalculated. In Lin Ling's heart, he really wasn't a tiger, but he thought of himself as a tiger. He was just a cat. As a cat, one had to have the awareness of being a cat. Don't imagine yourself becoming a tiger, because that moment would be the moment of death. Crack. Shi Wenbo's neck was broken, but his eyes were still wide open. He died with his eyes wide open. Today was the day he rose to power, but he fell just as he rose. Bang! Then, a figure was smashed into the black coffin in the distance. It was Shi Wenbo. Big brother Lin Ling. Little Peach and the others felt gratified. They had finally seen Shi Wenbo die. Lin Ling smiled, turned around, and left. The purpose of this trip had been accomplished. Wait, you killed my son-in-law. That's destroying the hope of my Su family. Seeing Shi Wenbo die, Su Jiulong's voice seemed to be distorted. Lin Ling, damn it. If it weren't for Lin Ling, he, Su Jiulong, would have followed Shi Wenbo and soared into the sky. However, Lin Ling had killed all his hopes. When he harmed me, why didn't you run out to speak for me? Lin Ling continued to walk forward, not even looking at the city lord. Even so, that's a matter of the past. You're petty and insist on settling scores. You've gone too far. Su Jiulong walked out. The resentment in his heart couldn't be extinguished no matter what. I can't be bothered to talk nonsense with you. Lin Ling smiled contemptuously. It was undeniable that he had killed Su Jiulong's future, but he didn't know Su Jiulong. It was impossible for him to let Shi Wenbo go because of him. If that was the case, who would avenge those guides who died at Shi Wenbo's hands? If you don't give me an explanation, you can't leave here. Su Jiulong waved his right hand heavily. His face was extremely ferocious. Bang bang bang. Suddenly, a large number of martial artists in armor appeared. At the same time, the city gates of Nine Dragon City were closed, sealing off the entire city. This terrifying scene made many people hold their breaths. It seemed that the city lord would never let that young man leave. Finishing touch. However, at this moment, Lin Ling waved his right hand. The tyrannical Song sword hidden in his ring finally appeared. His two dantians also began to circulate crazily, forming the most terrifying sword. That sword was incomparably fast. That was a sword that killed. The power of tremors spread out at the same time. Bang bang bang. The surrounding buildings instantly collapsed and were shaken into pieces. Su Jiulong, be careful. Lord Lan's expression changed drastically. He immediately shouted anxiously. However, it was too late. Su Jiulong was no match for Lin Ling before, let alone Lin Ling now that he had used a sword. A glaring blood spurted out. A sword mark appeared on Su Jiulong's neck. He stared at Lin Ling and fell on his back. Talking nonsense when you don't have the strength. Do you want to die? Dead. Lin Ling smiled coldly and continued to move forward. Dead. the city lord of 9 Dragons City was killed. The armored guards did not dare to speak at this moment. As for the surrounding people, they did not expect Lin Ling to be so strong. However, they also thought that the city lord deserved it. The other person had the strength to easily kill him, but he actually wanted Lin Ling to stay. He was simply muddle-headed. "Does anyone else have any objections?" Lin Ling said as he walked. At the same time, a cold aura was emitted from his body. However, the whole city was silent. Lord Lan looked deeply at Lin Ling and finally fell silent. This was because he realized that even he was not Lin Ling's opponent. This guy was so strong. He should have entered the 3 great academies long ago. "Little Peach, let's go." Lin Ling beckoned to the people in the distance and calmly led them out of the city. Rumble. The falling city gate was directly slashed open by Lin Ling. The people in the city looked at the coffin on the ground and then at the chaotic 9 Dragons City. They were speechless for a long time. At this moment, Lin Ling led Little Peach and the others away and asked them to enter the scout barracks of the martial gods barracks. Along the way, Lin Ling asked the passers-by. After getting the general direction, he anxiously returned to the martial gods barracks. Xian Yuan Go and the others should be in the martial gods barracks now. The journey took a day. Not long after, the ancient martial gods barracks appeared in his sight. "I'm finally back." Lin Ling revealed a smile. This trip to the 8 gods' heavenly palace was full of twists and turns. Fortunately, his strength had greatly increased and he had also collected the space and time divine steel. Now, it was time for him to go to the 3 great academies to find Yu Yu and the others. But Lord Lin Ling. When Lin Ling approached the martial gods barracks, the faces of the soldiers changed drastically. Lin Ling glanced at the soldiers. His intuition told him that something must have happened. "Lord Lin Ling, you haven't returned for 3 months. You have violated the military order and will be beheaded in public. Moreover, everyone in the scout barracks has been captured." The soldier greatly admired Lin Ling. Therefore he reminded him in a soft voice, "My lord, you should leave the martial gods barracks immediately." Chapter 2358. The Imperial Edict had arrived. Dong dong dong. At this moment, the war drums in the martial gods barracks were beaten, and a large number of armored soldiers marched out. "Halt!" The war horses were in a frenzy, and the sound of armor rang out one after another. These indifferent soldiers quickly surrounded Lin Ling. Lin Ling frowned when he saw this. However, when he thought of Xian Yuan Go and the others, anger rose in his heart. Although he didn't know what had happened, Xian Yuan Go and the others had better be fine. Otherwise they couldn't blame him, Lin Ling. Almost at the same time, a familiar voice rang out. "Lin Ling, leave quickly. Deputy General Shan Yang is going to harm you." Commander Huang Qi and the others rushed out when they heard the news. "Leave the martial gods barracks immediately." Their voices were extremely anxious, causing Lin Ling's expression to change drastically. To be able to cause Commander Huang Qi and the others to be helpless, this meant that the person who had attacked him was extremely powerful. Deputy General Shan Yang? The old man who had previously made a military order with Lin Ling? Who dares to let him go? Bang! However, at this moment, a majestic roar rang out, causing the surrounding soldiers to take a step forward. They were orderly and majestic, and firmly trapped Lin Ling in the center. A powerful aura also spread out. Although these soldiers were not strong, the military aura when gathered together was extremely frightening. "How dare you? Without the general's order, how can you capture Lin Ling?" Commander Huang Qi and the others immediately roared angrily. Subsequently, many other commanders voiced their support. As for the distance, a large number of soldiers had arrived, but they were all spectators. "Lord Lin Ling has returned. Is he still alive? Amazing." As expected of the youngest commander of the martial gods barracks. He's not afraid even in the face of thousands of soldiers. However, he seems to have violated the military rules. Many of the new soldiers whispered to each other. They had a deep admiration for the legendary Lin Ling. "Lin Ling, how dare you come back?" At this moment, the old voice sounded again, causing the army to fall silent. An old man in white armor walked over majestically. He was Deputy General Shan Yang. Bring him out. After he walked out, he waved his hand. Lin Ling. My lord. The people of the scout camp were all captured, and their bodies were bound by mysterious chains, making it impossible for them to resist. Among them were Gong Yongjiang, Falling Flowers Flowing Water Sword, and Xian Yuan Go-er. Seeing this, Lin Ling's face became even gloomier. He still didn't know what had happened. How dare you, Lin Ling? You've made a military order, yet you fled outside. Do you know your crime? Deputy General Shan Yang looked at Lin Ling indifferently. His voice was extremely dignified. Because you have violated the military rules, the entire scout camp will be executed. What? Hearing this, many people's expressions changed drastically. There were so many people in the scout camp. If they were all executed, who knew how many lives would be lost? My lord Lin Ling, don't bother about us. Leave quickly. Falling Flowers Flowing Water Sword and the others said, asking Lin Ling to leave this place immediately. However, Lin Ling remained silent, and his face was still gloomy. Lin Ling, I know you're not convinced, but let me tell you, the military rules are as firm as a mountain. No matter who you are, if you dare to violate the military rules, you will be executed. Deputy General Shan Yang's old face revealed a sinister smile, and he waved his hands. Rumble! A huge cloth appeared in the sky, covering the mountains and rivers, causing the mountains and rivers to tremble. Bang! 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 The surrounding soldiers felt the terrifying pressure, and they all knelt down on one knee. Their faces were filled with fear. The imperial decree has arrived. The dazzling cloth dispersed, and 3 magnificent words appeared in the sky. It was an imperial decree. Imperial decree of all realms. Lin Ling's eyes narrowed. That was because it was a supreme-grade treasure, which was of a higher grade than his tyrannical song sword. Although it did not have any attack power, it was majestic. If this imperial decree was placed in all realms, it would definitely be able to suppress all realms. In fact, Li Xiaoyao had seen this type of imperial edict in the past. Legend has it that it was made from the skin of an imperial king. One had to sacrifice 100 million imperial kings and peel off their skin and bones in order to create an imperial edict. These dead imperial kings came from myriad worlds. No matter if it was a major realm or a small realm, as long as one could become an emperor, they would have the aura of an emperor. The imperial decree of all realms required that mysterious aura of an emperor. Lin Ling, you were ordered to investigate the enemy situation, but you have done nothing and delayed the military situation. The great Azure God dynasty has decided to execute you publicly to respect the righteousness of the Azure state. At the same time, the imperial decree appeared, and the radiant words shocked the 9 states. Lin Ling stared at the imperial decree, and his heart became heavy. Previously, he was full of doubts. Because in a place like the Martial God Barracks, Deputy General Shan Yang was not qualified to execute him. After all, the Martial God Barracks still had 3 great generals and marshals. But now he understood. So it was the great Azure God dynasty. Legend had it that the Martial God Barracks was just a military barracks of the great Azure God dynasty. The Martial God Barracks obviously could not go against the will of the God dynasty. However, the great Azure God dynasty had issued an imperial decree for Lin Ling. This was making a mountain out of a molehill. Lin Ling thought carefully. He did not have many enemies at the moment, only the 2 heavenly blessings of the Azure state. Yi Xiaoshou of the Heavenly Court, Onlywa Commandery, and Tating Commandery. However, these people were obviously not qualified to make the imperial decree move. Then, who killed Lin Ling first? Lin Ling could not understand all of this. He could not see through the person behind this. Could it be? Suddenly, Lin Ling's heart froze. Could it be Grandma Wendao? Because among the people he knew, Grandma Wendao was the most mysterious. And Grandma Wendao obviously would not harm him. The person's target should not be Lin Ling. Maybe it was Grandma Wendao. He was just bait. This meant that in the 8 gods' heavenly palace, because Void had saved Lin Ling, this had led to people guessing that Lin Ling was related to Grandma Wendao. Shaking his head, Lin Ling thought too much. He could only say that Grandma Wendao's origins were beyond his imagination. Men capture him. At this time, Deputy General Shan Yang sneered. I'll do it. A Grand Commander stepped forward and walked towards Lin Ling with a dignified expression. Stop. However, at this time, Senior Commander Huang Qi and the others flashed. blocking in front of the senior commander. Haha, I didn't expect Lin Ling to have so many accomplices. Let me see who dares to block the imperial decree. Kill without mercy. Deputy General Shan Yang shook his head. 4 vast worlds appeared above his head. He pushed out with one hand, forming a storm that attacked the senior commanders. 4th stage of the World King realm. This level of strength was clearly not something that the senior commanders could block. Ka. A tyrannical strength appeared. Senior Commander Huang Qi and the others spat out a mouthful of blood and crashed to the ground, losing the strength to fight. The youngest senior commander in the history of the Martial God Battalion? Haha, I don't think so. Deputy General Shan Yang did not even look at Huang Qi and the others. He crossed his arms and stared at Lin Ling with contempt. Capture him. With his voice, the senior commander walked towards Lin Ling once more. The surrounding soldiers were silent. They could see that Lin Ling would not be able to escape this calamity today. If you want to capture Lin Ling, you'll have to pass through me first. But what surprised everyone was that another person had appeared to protect him. You're tuning in to the Xueqi's Martial Arts Saga YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.